Chapter 140. Just like that, for the remaining month, Jiang Tian did not leave the house. He did not step out of the door and cultivated hard in number 1 King's Villa. Qing'er worked during the day and accompanied Jiang Tian to cultivate at night. Her comprehension in cultivation was also very amazing. She could discuss cultivation techniques with Jiang Tian, and some of her points could even inspire Jiang Tian. Moreover, her progress could be said to be very fast. In just a month she broke through to the qi refinement stage. However, without the D new flower she could not use it. From the first 3 stages of qi refinement stage to the middle stage of qi refinement stage was a very important stage. The key was condensing qi into spirit. This was the result of the double strength of divine sense and true essence. The surging true essence fused with a wisp of divine sense and had its own spirituality. It was like a cultivator's avatar that could assist Jiang Tian in attacking. At this stage, Jiang Tian chose to cultivate the main cultivation technique of his previous life, the Cloud Sea Azure Dragon technique, as a supplement. He wanted to condense 2 Azure Dragons. One Azure Dragon was the spirit of the Spirit Gathering Array, guarding number 1 King's Villa and protecting his beloved wife. In fact, the Spirit Gathering Array was only a very basic formation. It did not have the ability to attack or defend. Jiang Tian planned to strengthen one of the True Essence Azure Dragons into a defensive and lethal Azure Dragon formation. The other Azure Dragon would be his personal item to assist him in defense and attack. The development of Zhou Pharmaceutical Company could only be described as rapid. The muscle-nourishing ointment swept the national market like a hot knife through butter. Its sales rose steadily. Coupled with the orders from the military, it could be said to be like the sun in the sky. In just 3 months, the sales of the muscle-nourishing ointment broke 5 billion, and the net profit was 1 billion. Not to mention the scale of the assets, at least in terms of profit. In 2007, Zhou Pharmaceutical Company was ranked in the top 30 pharmaceutical companies in Wuxia. On this day, Jiang Tian was meditating in number 1 King's Villa. Zhao Qianru ran over and smiled. "Brother-in-law, it's the National Day holiday. Let's go out and play." "How can I have time to play with you? Look at this villa." Jiang Tian patted his little head and laughed involuntarily. "Brother-in-law, you said that before I have a boyfriend, you will accompany me. But now, you only accompany big sister and don't even have me in your heart." The little girl was wearing a light spaghetti strap dress. Her long legs were snowy white and she was wearing high-heeled sandals. She hugged Jiang Tian's arm passionately and acted like a spoiled child. Jiang Tian's face darkened. This was really a promise that he made, was a debt that he owed. "That's right, brother-in-law, we plan to go to the Thousand Island Lake Resort in Leizhou to play. Do you want to come with me?" The little girl hugged Jiang Tian's arm and smiled with anticipation. "I won't go." Jiang Tian shook his head and said, "What's there to play with you guys? There's a generation gap and there's no common language." "Brother-in-law, how can you go back on your words? Be careful or I'll complain to my sister." The little girl pursed her lips and stamped her feet, feeling inexplicably jealous. Jiang Tian couldn't stand her sharp tongue and raised his hands in surrender. "All right, as long as your sister allows it, I have no problem." Zhao Qianru hurriedly called her sister and told her about the matter. Then she handed the phone to Jiang Tian and said, "My sister has instructions." "Wifey, what do you say?" Jiang Tian asked with a smile. "Go and accompany Xueqing on her vacation." Zhao Xueqing smiled gently and said, "You've been too busy recently. If you're not studying formations, you're cultivating hard. You even have to think about my physique. It's time to change your brain. Besides, she's young and heartless. If you go with her, I'll be more at ease. Don't worry. With me around, no one will dare to harm a single hair on Qianru's head." Jiang Tian hurriedly promised and said, "Why don't you come with us?" "Forget it, the company has a lot of orders right now. I can't leave it all, so I won't be going." Zhao Xueqing gently shook her head. At this moment, Shen Lu and Zheng Li came over and smiled. "Jiang Tian, where are you going to play?" Not only did they need Shen Mange, Master Qi and the others who knew about formations, they also needed people who were proficient in construction and civil engineering. Especially when the process of setting up the formation destroyed the roadside and landscape of the villa. The repair and restoration after the event was also not a small project. Shen Li's family was originally in the construction business, and he himself had also studied this in university. Now that he had returned to his old profession, Jiang Tian called him and Zheng Li to bring the construction team over to help. However, Jiang Tian discovered that the two of them had been flirting with each other these days, as if they were having an affair. Regarding this, Jiang Tian was also very gratified. It seemed that his return had changed the fate of some people. Zheng Li was much better than his original girlfriend. He hoped that Xin Lu would have a happy marriage. Thousand Island Lake Resort. Jiang Tian said with a smile. You want to go too? Master Kong, you can't be so stingy. You have to bring us along. Zheng Li and Xin Lu jeered together. In fact, after interacting with Jiang Tian for a long time, they realized that Jiang Tian was actually quite approachable, especially to people of the same age. Alright. You guys have worked hard these days. Let's go together tomorrow. Jiang Tian said with a smile. The next day, everyone gathered at the entrance of the Zhao family's lakeside villa early in the morning. On Jiang Tian's side there were only two friends, Zheng Li and Xin Lu. On Zhao Qianru's side, there were still 5 or 6 university classmates. It could be seen that Chu Yue's university classmates all had good family backgrounds. They all drove private cars and wore luxurious clothes. Jiang Tian was too lazy to drive, so Xin Lu drove a Volkswagen Golf over. There was even an advertisement sticker on it that read Earth, Sand, Construction. A university classmate of Zhao Qianru called Lu Wenhong sneered and said disdainfully, Qianru, your brother-in-law's car is quite unique. Lu Wenhong, show some respect. How could you know my brother-in-law's ability? Zhao Qianru glanced at him. I think your brother-in-law is just an ordinary uncle. I heard that he was kicked out of his family and came in? Lu Wenhong said with a face full of disdain. Lu Wenhong had pursued Zhao Qianru some time ago, but was ruthlessly rejected by Zhao Qianru. The reason was also very strange. You don't look like my brother-in-law. When Lu Wenhong heard this reason, he almost fainted from anger. What does it have to do with your brother-in-law that I'm in a relationship with you? However, he had always been curious about Zhao Qianru, this legendary brother-in-law of his. Today when he saw Jiang Tian, he immediately became eccentric. Lu Wenhong, why are you so nosy? If you keep talking nonsense, I won't go play. Zhao Qianru glared at him and pulled the door open to get out of the car. Alright, Qianru, this trip to the Thousand Island Lake Resort is still Wenhong's treat. Just give him some face. Chu Yue hurriedly advised. I'm too lazy to talk to you. Zhao Qianru opened the door and got out of the car. She got into the Volkswagen Golf that Jiang Tian was driving. Damn, what's so great about a person who does earth and stone business? Seeing this, Lu Wenhong secretly gritted his teeth. When everyone was here, he started the car with a gloomy face and the 3 cars set off together. The Thousand Island Lake Resort was located in the southernmost part of Lingnan, Leizhou. It was only separated from Hainan by the Qiongzhou Strait. In less than 4 hours, the 3 cars arrived at the border of Leizhou. When they got off the highway, there were already a few sports cars waiting at the exit. Lamborghini, Maserati, BMW X5, I'm dizzy, all of them are luxury cars. Chu Yue leaned against the window and looked at the row of sports cars. Her eyes were not enough to take in all of them. For a well-off family like her, driving a private car was already amazing. This kind of luxury car was simply unimaginable. Xin Lu, who was in the car behind, was also shocked. It seemed that these were all young masters of Leizhou. Lu Wenhong felt that he had gained face. He got out of the car and shook hands with the leading young man. Brother Fan, you're giving me too much face. Haha, who asked your cousin to be Tang Xiaozi? I will definitely give you face. The young man called Brother Fan laughed and glanced at the car. There were also a few beauties. I didn't expect Lu Wenhong's eyes to be so good. Thank you, Brother Fan. Lu Wenhong was flattered and had a servile expression. The young man winked and smiled. Which one do you like? You have too many beauties. Lu Wenhong said calmly. In the Volkswagen Golf, the girl wearing suspenders. Don't worry. This time brother will definitely give you face. If it doesn't work, I'll call my cousin Bai Choufei or your cousin to come over tonight. Your cousin is the awesome one, Yang Cheng's first-class young master Tang Xiaozi. You're looking for me from afar. The young man winked and smiled. Hey, my cousin is extremely busy. How could he have the time to care about my trivial matters? Lu Wenhong said with an understanding smile. The conversation between the two was heard by Chu Yue. Her face was filled with horror as she said in a trembling voice. Yang Cheng's #1 young master Bai Choufei? Bai Choufei was famous in Yangqing and Chuyue had heard of him in Jiangbei. It was said that he controlled the super-large flying cloud society and had a strange hobby. He loved to drink breast milk and would often search for breastfeeding women in Yangqing. Whoever dared to disobey, he would directly cripple them. The young man's face turned cold as he said in a deep voice, "Little girl, don't talk nonsense. If these words reach young Master Bai's ears, your entire family will die. I didn't expect you to be Tang Xiao's cousin. You're so low-key in school, I've never heard you mention it." Chuyue stuck out her tongue in fright. She looked at Lu Wenhong with a whole new level of respect and said apologetically, "I'm sorry for just now, I didn't mean it. Don't take it to heart. My cousin isn't here." Lu Wenhong said politely, but the pride and arrogance in his eyes could not be concealed. A student looked at Chuyue in astonishment and said, "Isn't your father the deputy director of the Commerce Bureau in Linzhou? Why would he be afraid of this kind of person?" "That's still not good," Chuyue said with a bitter smile. "This kind of powerful person can talk to the mayor and the secretary of the municipal committee. Moreover, this is Leizhou. That is the territory of Tang Xiaoze and Bai Choufei." She gave those ignorant students a look of disdain, saying softly, "Moreover, Tang Xiaoze and Bai Choufei are both especially powerful figures. Just Tang Xiaoze alone is someone not even Eastern Sea's Yi Gufeng could defeat. As for Lin Province's Tang family and Jing family, they are even more inferior." At this moment, Lu Wenhong glanced at the Volkswagen Golf that Jiang Tian was in and said indifferently, "That brat is Zhao Qianru's brother-in-law. Zhao Qianru praises him as if he is the sky. Today help me humiliate him. Let him understand who is the real strong. He with his loser appearance, is he in the business of stone?" That young man disdainfully patted his chest and said with a sinister smile, "Leizhou is my territory. I can knead him however I want." Chapter 141. The car didn't drive into the city. After getting off the highway, they directly took the ring road and arrived at the Thousand Island Lake scenic spot in the suburbs. The Thousand Island Lake was originally a scenic spot. Now it was contracted by a tourism investment company and developed into a large-scale project that integrated real estate, tourism, vacation, and entertainment. Just as they left the parking lot, they saw a tall and handsome young man leading the manager and others to greet them at the entrance of the resort. "Brother Nan, why did you come out personally?" Seeing the young man appear, even Lu Wenhong was slightly moved. He quickly walked over and shook hands with him while enthusiastically introducing, "This is the general manager of the Thousand Island Lake Resort, Bai Tianan. You must have heard of his cousin Bai Choufei, young Master Bai." "Bai Choufei's cousin? Wenhong, you also know such a big shot like Bai Choufei? Young Master Bai seems to have a scandal with the big star Guoji Chong some time ago. Is it true?" Zhao Qianru's classmates were stunned and excitedly discussed. For example, Guo Jingyao and Bai Choufei were people who often appeared in the gossip news. Stars, young masters, wealthy families, domineering suits. These words were originally unattainable existences, but now they actually appeared right in front of their eyes. "Wenhong, I heard about you from your cousin. Today, young Master Bai and young Master Tang came together to discuss business." Bai Tianan lightly shook hands with Lu Wenhong and smiled reservedly. "Is that so?" Lu Wenhong shook Bai Tianan's hand excitedly. His face was ecstatic. "Cousin will also appear? That's great. I can let these classmates see my amazing strength. That's the #1 young master in Yangqing. These are my classmates." He also wanted to introduce his classmates to Bai Tianan. However, although Bai Tianan was only 25 or 26 years old, his aura was huge and he was quite arrogant. He was too lazy to pay attention to him and directly interrupted, "Okay, you can slowly get to know each other later. Let's go in first." Everyone felt this kind of contempt, but no one would say anything. Bai Tianan's status was so high and his financial resources were not something they could compare to. Walking into the resort, everyone was shocked. On the vast Thousand Island Lake, there were more than a dozen small islands with luxuriant vegetation and pleasant environments. They were connected by glass planks. On each small island, there were tall villa-style hotels and various entertainment facilities. The clear lake was a vast expanse of green. A white yacht sailed across the white waves, leaving behind sounds of joy and laughter. "What's that? Umbrellas? I played it when I was traveling in Penang." As Chuyue walked along the cobblestone path, She looked at the lake and exclaimed in surprise. A speedboat set off 2 white waves as it sailed quickly. The speedboat was pulling an umbrella, and under the umbrella sat 2 tourists. Cheerful screams could be heard continuously. As Bai Tianan walked in front, he proudly introduced, "My family's resort occupies 13 small islands, and there's also a part of the shore." There was a luxurious lakeside hotel with more than 200 rooms and 5 villa-style hotels. Dozens of villa experience rooms. In addition, each island has a different type of entertainment. On the first island, extreme sports such as real-life CS, rock climbing, etc. On the second island, there's a racing track that completely simulates the F1 track. On the third island, there's the only yacht club in Lingnan. It has even appeared at the Banquet of Bliss. We also have 3 high-end restaurants here. Australian lobsters, 2-headed abalone, and Japanese caviar. They're all flown in and we have everything you need. That's awesome. Listening to Bai Tiannan's introduction, the girls were already grinning from ear to ear. Even the boys were tempted. Chu Yue secretly pulled down her collar, revealing her fair skin. She leaned over and said with a fawning face, "Brother Tianan, the investment for this resort is not small, right? The initial investment is 500 million. The next step will be an additional 1 billion to build villas with a lake view." Bai Tianan said calmly, "Your family is really powerful. This investment could be considered a huge sum. It's more powerful than many of the tycoons in Jiangbei." Lu Wenhong exclaimed. "You're wrong again." Bai Tianan said solemnly, "The first 500 million is indeed our Bai family's investment, but the subsequent investment is from the Lingnan Chamber of Commerce led by Master Kong." "Who's Master Kong? What's the Lingnan Chamber of Commerce?" Many people present were puzzled. Even Lu Wenhong, who was well informed, shook his head lightly. "You're all from Linzhou City, but you've never heard of Master Kong and the Jiangbei Chamber of Commerce?" Bai Tianan looked at them in surprise. It seemed that Lu Wenhong's family background and status were not too high. They didn't even know of the great Master Kong. Everyone was puzzled. "Master Kong is from Linzhou City." Bai Tianan sighed with reverence. On the Blue Whale Princess, he defeated the Great Circle's expert Xing Shanhu with 1 punch and suppressed the entire Jiangbei. Even Peak Master Yi Gufeng bowed his head to him. He's known as the Jiangbei Godfather. Later on, he fought his way to Lingnan. Now many tycoons in Yangqing worship him. What kind of heaven-defying strength is this? As he spoke, he felt that he had said too much. Bai Chofei had warned him not to spread news about Master Kong. He hurriedly stopped and changed the topic. "Wenhong, come with me to get the room card. Take a rest and have some fun. I'll come back tonight to accompany you." After Lu Wenhong and Bai Tianan left, everyone sighed. What, even Jing Guangxia bowed his head to him? "He's so powerful. This Master Kong should be an old grandpa." Everyone exclaimed in surprise. Their eyes widened in disbelief. Chu Yue glanced at Zhang Tian and thought, "That Master Kong can't be Zhang Tian, right?" The next moment she shook her head. Impossible. This guy was originally a lunatic and now he had become a swindler. It was fine if he swindled people in a small place like Jiangbei, but how could he swindle people in Jiangnan? At that time she had also witnessed the Tang family's apprenticeship ceremony, but the more she thought about it, the more she felt that it was impossible. Zhang Tian was crazy back then. He smashed and burned at home and Chu Yue and Zhao Xueqing couldn't clean up the mess. She had seen it with her own eyes. The contrast was so huge. How could she easily accept the fact that Zhang Tian had ascended to the heavens? She believed that Zhang Tian had used some method to deceive the Tang family and those people in Jiangbei. He was just fishing for fame. "Let's put down our luggage first and play together after lunch." At this time, Lu Wenhong had already gotten the room cards from the manager and started to distribute them to everyone. This National Day trip was completely arranged by Lu Wenhong. The expenses of coming out to play were also covered by him. As for how to stay, it was naturally arranged by him. Zhao Qianru, Chu Yue, and the others were assigned to a villa area. There was plenty of sunlight there and the view was broad. Moreover, more than a dozen people stayed in a villa. After playing, they could even play cards and chat together. Jiang Tian, Shenlu, and Zhengli stayed in an ordinary hotel. The 2 rooms were on the first floor. The ground was very damp and was blocked by tall trees. Usually this was for the hotel attendants on the night shift. It was obvious that they had been marginalized. Everyone put down their luggage and gathered in the lobby again. Lu Wenhong had already arrived. Seeing Jiang Tian coming over, he laughed sinisterly. Uncle Jiang, the environment of the room is not bad, right? Jiang Tian obviously sensed Lu Wenhong's exclusion of him, but he didn't take it to heart. He wasn't very particular about food, clothing, accommodation, and transportation, so he smiled gently and said, "The environment is pretty good, thank you for your arrangements." Did this kid not have any awareness of being excluded? Lu Wenhong gritted his teeth in anger and frowned. "All right, as long as you're happy." Why isn't my brother-in-law staying with us?" Zhao Qianru put down her luggage and walked over, asking in confusion. Our villa hotel is already full. So, I arranged an ordinary room for Uncle Jiang." Lu Wenhong said with a fake smile. "So it's like this." Zhao Qianru nodded her head in realization and suddenly said something shocking. "Then brother-in-law, you and I will stay in the same room tonight. Jay. You two are staying together." Lu Wenhong was suddenly in a difficult position and suffered a blow. Could it be that he wasn't your brother-in-law but your boyfriend? Could it be that you two have already slept together? "Yeah, my sister and I share a husband and sleep together. What's wrong with staying together?" Zhao Qianru's face was matter-of-fact as she hugged Jiang Tian's arm and said softly, "Do I still have to report to you? You're really controlling everything." Jiang Tian was speechless. This time he was actually used as a shield by his sister-in-law. Who could he reason with? Damn, this is too shocking. Two sisters marrying a husband? What a monster, what a zombie. Wenhong is so sad he's making a wedding dress for someone else. Wenhong organized this National Day trip to confess to Zhao Qianru. Now it's all for nothing. Damn, the restaurant even prepared roses. In this situation, do you want to remove it? All the students looked at Lu Wenhong sympathetically, as if his forehead had already turned green. Facing Zhao Qianru's questioning, Lu Wenhong's face turned green and white. After a long time he said bitterly, "Of course there's no problem. Let's go eat." On the way to the restaurant, a few students gathered around Lu Wenhong, who was walking at the back, and expressed their righteous indignation as they suggested. "Lu Wenhong, what should we do? Should we beat him up?" "Yeah, what's the point of being polite at this point? Beat him up until he doesn't dare to get close to Zhao Qianru. This grandson is too infuriating. He even dares to touch Wenhong's woman. I really can't stand it. I must beat him to death. You guys just act according to my signal." Looking at Jiang Tian, who was holding Zhao Qianru's hand, Lu Wenhong's anger soared to the sky as he gritted his teeth. If looks could kill, Jiang Tian would have died 100 times over. The restaurant was more Western in the form of a buffet. In order to confess to Zhao Qianru, Lu Wenhong even spent a lot of money and booked the entire restaurant. Therefore there were no other guests. At this time, Zhao Qianru took the food and sat beside Jiang Tian. She said apologetically, "Brother-in-law, I'm sorry. He always harassed me, so I had to use you as a shield to make him give up. You won't be angry, right? You should have told me in advance so that I could dress up more handsome." Jiang Tian smiled indifferently. "Brother-in-law is the most handsome. There's no need to dress up." Zhao Qianru giggled. Lu Wenhong also came over and sat down. He was burning with jealousy and the veins on his forehead were throbbing. He sneered with a gloomy face. "Uncle Jiang, is that kid Shenli your friend?" "My classmate, our relationship is not bad. You know him?" Jiang Tian looked at him in surprise. Chapter 142. That brat wanted to take on a project in Yangqing City, so he came to visit my dad with gifts. Lu Wenhong shook his head with an arrogant expression and disdainfully said, "He's too whimsical. He only brought a few bottles of Mao Tai and wanted to curry favor with my dad. What a joke." Lu Wenhong ridiculed. "I threw him out like a wild dog and threw the Mao Tai into the trash can. That brat was so scared that he nearly knelt down." Shen Li's face was ashen with humiliation and resentment in his eyes. It seems that what Lu Wenhong said was true. "Pa, is that so?" Jiang Tian frowned as anger gathered in his chest for the first time. Lu Wenhong added fuel to the fire and proudly said, "But now that I know about your relationship with him, I feel that I was a little rude. If he wants to take on a project, you guys can go and beg my dad together. There's no need to bring gifts, I will ask my dad to give him a way out." Jiang Tian calmly said, "Go back and tell your dad that the projects that your dad invests in will all belong to Shen Lu." Lu Wenhong was stunned for a moment before he said with disdain, "Jiang Tian, who do you think you are? Are you crazy? Can you make the decision? Jiang Tian faintly smiled. Whether I can make the decision or not, you can ask Tang Xiaoza or your dad. Also, don't harass Qianru anymore. She doesn't have a good impression of you. Bullshit. Lu Wenhong slammed the table and pointed at Jiang Tian. I don't care what relationship you have with Zhao Qianru. In short, you little loser, stay away from her. Otherwise I will kill you. Lu Wenhong, show some respect. In Linzhou City, Jiang Tian and Zhou Zhenghao have a say. Shenlu angrily slammed the table. It was fine for others to insult him, but he couldn't bear to see others insult his good brother, Jiang Tian. Pa Zhou Zhenghao. Long Gatian. Bird feathers. Lu Wenhong's face was filled with arrogance as he mocked. Compared to my uncle Tang Xianxia and my cousin Tang Xiaoza, he's nothing. Chuyue's face was full of disdain as she said with a cold smile, Jiang Tian, how can you forcefully resist Lu Wenhong? He may be young, but he is Tang Xianxia's nephew. You may be popular in Linzhou, but this is Leizhou. The fall of the Lingnan clan's Wei clan had a huge impact, but in the end, it was still too far away from a child from a well-off family like Chuyue. When they saw the news on the news, they only muttered to themselves, oh, the Wei clan has fallen. How could they possibly look into the truth behind this? How could they possibly know the relationship between this great change in Jiang Tian? In Chuyue's eyes, Jiang Tian was only a scammer in the Jiangbei region. However, if he were to run into the big shots of Jiangnan province, he would have to kneel down and submit to them. After all, the Tang family of Yangqing City was a power that even the Tang family of Linzhou City couldn't afford to offend. Young Lord Lu only invited Zhao Qianru, not you. Get out of here. Yeah. You and Qin Fan are just losers. You are a disgrace to us. These students all stood on Lu Wenhong's side, fighting to criticize Jiang Tian. They were arrogant and despotic to the extreme. If you don't get out of here, I will ask my cousin to break your legs. Lu Wenhong thought that he had gained the upper hand, so he pointed at Jiang Tian's nose and threatened him. Wenhong, you are here? At this moment, a deep baritone voice sounded. At the entrance of the hall, a few young men with extraordinary bearings walked in. Cousin, I brought a few of my classmates here to have fun. Lu Wenhong saw the newcomers and felt that he had found a backer. He ran over and said with a smile, is this young Lord Tang Xiaoza? Everyone looked at Tang Xiaoza one after another, their eyes filled with admiration. He is so handsome and imposing. This is the real top young lord. Chuyue's eyes flickered as she murmured with admiration. Lu Wenhong suddenly looked at Jiang Tian coldly and pointed at him. This Jiang guy is the brother-in-law of the girl I like, but he still wants to hit on her. Help me take care of him and break his legs. Tang Xiaoza only saw Jiang Tian after he pointed at him. His smile froze on his face and he could no longer smile. In the next moment his knees went soft and he knelt on the ground. He said with a trembling voice, I didn't know that Master Kong would be here. Please forgive me for being late to welcome you. After more than a month of careful nursing, Tang Xiaoza could finally get up and walk. He also started to work normally. But when he thought of Jiang Tian's appearance, he felt a chill in his heart. He was afraid that he would be unlucky again, so he shifted his business to Lingnan's southernmost Leizhou. Seemed to be safer to stay away from Jiang Tian. Having his legs broken while he was still alive was indeed too painful. This afternoon, he and a few business partners were discussing a real estate project in the resort. When he heard that his cousin was coming, he came to take a look. But he didn't think that things would be so coincidental that he would meet Jiang Tian in Leizhou. What? Young Lord Tang actually knelt in front of Jiang Tian. Everyone was completely dumbfounded and petrified. Wasn't this guy a loser? Why did Tang Xiaoza kneel in front of him? It was too inconceivable. Jiang Tian didn't even look at him as he leisurely ate the grilled oyster. He nodded and said, oh, your Tang family is quite good at picking up girls. Brother, what are you doing? This guy is the Zhao family's son-in-law, a trash existence. He's in the stone business with Shenlu. Lu Wenhong asked in confusion. Tang Xiaoza wanted to cry but had no tears. He was scared of Jiang Tian to death. During the banquet of bliss, Jiang Tian ordered his legs to be broken. At that time his dad said that Master Kong was merciful. Otherwise he would have killed him and no one would be able to do anything. That's right, Jiang Tian couldn't even be killed by bullets. He burned Mo Haoxiong to ashes with a long flame. He killed the little Taoist master Wei Ping with a single glance. He even withstood 10 li of earth qi and killed the spellmaster Wei Shuofeng. This kind of power, this kind of ability, this kind of ruthlessness had long been deeply imprinted in Tang Xiao's mind. He would never be able to forget it for the rest of his life. When he thought about it, his whole body trembled. When he thought about it, he couldn't eat or sleep well. When he thought about how his legs were broken by the ghost kick, his bones still felt waves of pain. But now, this blind cousin of his actually had ideas about Jiang Tian's sister-in-law and even spoke such arrogant words. Wasn't this trying to kill him? You shut up. He was shocked and angry at the same time. He jumped up and slapped Lu Wenhong's face, causing his nose to bleed violently. Cousin, why did you hit me? Lu Wenhong was dizzy and disoriented. He covered his face in confusion and astonishment. Tang Xiaozi gritted his teeth and his eyes spat fire. You dog, you're crazy. How dare you talk to Master Kong like that? As he spoke, Tang Xiaozi quickly walked up to Jiang Tian, bowed respectfully, cupped his fists and smiled apologetically. Grandmaster Jiang, this little brother of mine has a foul mouth and offended you. Don't worry, I'll surely take care of him. Everyone was confused. Tang Xiaozi was just a son-in-law of the Zhao family who was in the stone business. Did he have to give him face? Only Chu Yue's beautiful eyes were wide open. She was shocked and cold sweat came out. She understood in her heart. So Jiang Tian was the Master Kong they were talking about. So he didn't just earn the Tang family's respect. He had already suppressed the entire Lingnan and made many of the top young masters in Yangqing fear him. Okay, don't make a fuss. Don't let anyone come. I just want to play with my sister-in-law for 2 days. Jiang Tian waved his hand and said lightly. That's good, that's good. I'll take care of everything. Tang Xiaozi kept bowing and slowly backed away. This Lu Wenhong disrespected me again and again. Kill him. Jiang Tian's tone was light. It was as if he was simply crushing an ant. Do it. Tang Xiaozi turned his head abruptly and shouted at the bodyguards who were staring at him with their mouths agape. Damn it, if I don't kill him, I'm afraid I'll be the one dead. What are you waiting for? Yes. A few attendants immediately swarmed forward and dragged Lu Wenhong, who was so scared that he was dumbstruck, out of the room like a little chick. Master Kong, I know I was wrong. Spare me this time. Lu Wenhong struggled and begged for mercy. Tears fell like rain, but Jiang Tian just ate silently and didn't even look at him. But it hurts. A moment later, 2 blood-curdling screams came from outside the door, and then there was a terrifying silence. Chu Yue was so scared that her whole body trembled. She moved to Jiang Tian with difficulty and said in a trembling voice, Jiang Tian, I'm sorry. Everyone, don't be nervous. Since you're Qianru's classmate, you're my friend. I've always been a very easygoing person. Jiang Tian didn't even look at her. He raised his wine glass at the students who were scared stiff and kept quiet out of fear. He nodded and smiled. Easygoing, your sister. Killing people without blinking. Great Demon King. These students trembled and turned their heads away. They didn't dare to look at Jiang Tian, this terrifying guy. After the meal, under everyone's astonished gaze, Jiang Tian and Zhao Qianru moved into Lakeview Villa 1. Even Xin Lu and Zheng Li moved into Villa 8. Brother-in-law is too mighty and domineering. From now on, none of these boys will dare to harass me. While swimming in the open-air swimming pool on the roof of the villa, Zhao Qianru's graceful body created splashes of water as she proudly smiled. It's not good for you to be like this. I see that there are 2 young men inside. They're quite handsome. Under the parasol, Jiang Tian was dressed casually. He was lying on a bench and casually flipping through a Chinese medicine book as he spoke indifferently. Hey, how can they compare to brother-in-law? If I don't want to find someone, then I won't. If I want to find someone like brother-in-law, Zhao Qianru said with a firm expression. I'm afraid that's very difficult. This sister-in-law is possessed. Regarding this, Jiang Tian could only shake his head and smile bitterly as he sighed helplessly. For the remaining 2 days, Jiang Tian, Zhao Qianru, Xin Lu, Zheng Li and the others had a good time at the Thousand Island Lake Resort. After washing away their fatigue, they drove back. On the way back, Chu Yue and Zhao Qianru's classmates all had heavy hearts. They were silent and avoided Jiang Tian with fear in their eyes. Regarding this, Jiang Tian didn't take it to heart. He thought leisurely, there shouldn't be anything else after this. I should focus on cultivation and cultivate to the 4th level as soon as possible. After breaking through to the middle stage of qi refinement, I should also return to Qixia City to take a look. He looked at the scenery outside the car window. A trace of coldness flashed through his eyes as he muttered, "Those people who bullied my parents and coveted the Jiang family in my previous life, I hope you are prepared to die." Chapter 143. Sai, why do I always run into Master Kong? I'm so unlucky. Could it be that my life is that bad? After sending Jiang Tian to the highway, Tang Xiaozi wiped the cold sweat off his forehead and said with lingering fear, "Young Master Tang, maybe it'll be useful if you believe in Buddhism." Bai Tiannan suggested after pondering for a moment. Really? Yes, Buddhism will definitely be useful. As long as you sincerely believe in Buddhism, you won't run into this king of hell again. Bai Tiannan said. What's wrong with believing in Buddhism? As long as I don't run into Kong Teichu, I'm willing to exchange 10 years of my life for it. Tang Xiaozi seemed to see the light of hope. He clasped his hands together and said sincerely, "Buddha, from today onwards I'll abstain from sex, meat and vegetables. I won't talk nonsense and I won't drink alcohol. I'll sincerely worship Buddha every day and pray that I won't see Kong Teichu again in this life." Fu Lanjun was very miserable these days. The Tang family broke off the engagement, and the vice president of the socialite clubhouse was removed. Without the help of the Tang family, the sales of her clivia were declining. She had become the biggest joke in Linzhou. Fu Lanjun seemed to have been drained of her energy and was completely dispirited. She couldn't eat or sleep well and her insomnia was severe. Her mind was always filled with images of Jiang Tian. When they went on a blind date, he tried to please her and gave her a childish Winnie the Pooh. She smashed the Winnie the Pooh on his face and scolded him for being a toad who wanted to eat swan meat. His face was full of shock and he looked like he had lost his soul. During the apprenticeship ceremony of the Tang family, he accepted the worship of the Tang family. Everyone looked at him with disdain. Many images flashed before her eyes like a lantern. Her eyes were dull and she didn't speak much. Her parents even suspected that she had lost her mind. In a few months she had lost 5 kilograms and was extremely skinny. That night Fu Lanjun ate a few mouthfuls of food and lay on the bed. She tossed and turned, unable to fall asleep. Jiang Tian is a good-for-nothing who is also crazy. How did he become Kong Teichu Master Kong? The long period of fighting in the business world had cultivated her meticulous and rational way of thinking. The more it was like this, the more she found it hard to believe. In the end, she gritted her teeth, changed into a new set of clothes and quietly left the house. She walked towards King's No. 1 villa. Her best friend, Lu Biao, had now become Jiang Tian's fangirl. She would broadcast Jiang Tian's news to her all day long. She knew that Jiang Tian had already moved to King's No. 1 villa. Zhou Xian, who had gone to Yangqing City to develop, had also met her once and warned her never to provoke Jiang Tian again. When Fu Lanjun asked her why, Zhou Xian was so scared that she couldn't stop trembling and left without saying a word. At this time it was 5 o'clock in the morning, and the east was gradually turning white. She easily pushed open the door of the villa. Clouds and mist swirled around, vegetation grew luxuriantly and rockery and strange rocks could be vaguely seen. It was almost like a fairyland. Is there no one living here? Could it be that Lu Biao made a mistake? Fu Lanjun entered as if there was no one around. Seeing that the villa's door was locked, she went up to the rooftop viewing platform. Jiang Tian! She cried out in alarm. She saw Jiang Tian sitting on the rocking chair, leisurely sipping his tea. "I knew you were coming." Jiang Tian swallowed a mouthful of tea as the corner of his mouth curved into a mocking smile. "Do you think you're an immortal? You know everything." Seeing Jiang Tian's indifferent and calm appearance, Fu Lanjun suddenly became angry. All the scenes of her being humiliated in front of Jiang Tian floated up in her mind. Especially Jiang Tian's eyes, which made her very uncomfortable. It was as if he was watching an ant climb with interest. Or perhaps he was a spectator in the corner of the theater watching other people's horse performances, but he knew that this was just a show. He was high and mighty as if he was looking at ants. His arrogance was boundless. She was so angry that her body trembled. "I don't believe that you are Master Kong." "Why not?" Jiang Tian narrowed his eyes. His interest was piqued. "Why? It's too simple. Because of reason." Fu Lanjun poured out all the grievances she had suffered over the past few months. She clenched her fists and shouted. The Tang family treats you like a VIP and the elites of Jiangbei see you as their leader. But I don't believe it. Because you don't have the qualifications to be a big shot. You seem to be low-key, but in reality, you are arrogant and disregard the rules of society. In terms of family background, the Jiang family is on the decline. The Medicine King group is struggling. You were expelled from your family because you offended a big shot in Yanjin. You can't rely on the Jiang family. In terms of tactics, you are not as good as Lu Tianla or even Long Gatian. In terms of IQ, you are crazy, ignorant and fearless. You are no different from a lunatic. How can you compare with those business elites? You are ignorant and incompetent. You only studied in a third-rate school. You almost couldn't graduate because of cheating. Your personality is not good. Your family background is not good. Your tactics are not good. Your IQ is not good. How can you be Master Kong? So either you are a liar or they are blind. By the end of her speech, her body was trembling. She clenched her fists as if she was going to shout out all the doubts, grievances, and fears that she had accumulated over the past few days. Fu Lanjun had received an elite education since she was a child. She had studied at the business school of the University of London. She had always thought that she was good at identifying talents. Her relationship with Tang Jianfeng was one of her masterpieces. Tang Jianfeng was said to have been expelled from the Tang family. No one thought highly of him. However, when it came to Jiang Tian, she had been wrong many times. She had even put herself in a difficult position. Oh, that's it. Jiang Tian smiled faintly. You are not stupid. It's just that my abilities are far beyond what ordinary people can imagine. As for you, unfortunately, you are just an ordinary person. Jiang Tian looked down at the city that was gradually waking up under the morning sun. Those trees, those bricks, those crisscrossing city silhouettes, those calm lakes and distant mountains, and the things beyond the lakes and mountains. Everything seemed familiar, but it had a different meaning from his previous life. You will never be able to imagine that there is another real world in this world other than the life on the surface. Moreover, you will never be able to enter this world. Jiang Tian said faintly. Another world? Fu Lanjun was confused. Yes. Jiang Tian stood up lazily and smiled. Fine. You have been thinking about me and even came here today. I will show you another world. After that, Jiang Tian stomped his feet and shouted, Array rise! Suddenly, between Xiu Lake and Lion Peak, pillars of light shot into the sky. Above the lake and between the mountains, the sea of clouds churned. Spiritual fog surged like a tide and enveloped the villas. Under Fu Lanjuan's horrified gaze, two white chi dragons that were as thick as giant trees let out dragon roars as they shot through the sea of clouds with great might. This is, when she saw the dragon head that was the size of a millstone vividly appear before her eyes, Fu Lanjun couldn't help but stagger back in horror. Woo-woo. The two white chi dragons were like obedient cats, curled up under Jiang Tian's feet. The huge dragon heads kept rubbing against Jiang Tian's shoulders. Now you should know the answer, right? Jiang Tian turned around and looked directly into her panicked eyes as if he was looking at an ant. He said calmly, I suppressed Jiang Bei and Ling Nan. I don't need any knowledge or family background. Because I have the power to control the life and death of others. Facing this scene that was like a legend, Fu Lanjuan's heart fell to the bottom of the valley as she screamed crazily. With this kind of ability, he is really close to a god. No wonder he became the Master Kong that everyone worships. Following that, regret and frustration that was 10 times stronger than before swallowed her body and mind completely. Her tears fell like rain as she stumbled out of the villa. On the morning of the 28th of November 2007, on Lion Peak, the Chi Dragon Array was completed. On this day, Jiang Tian condensed his essence into 2 Qi cultivation stage and successfully stepped into the mid-stage of Qi cultivation stage. Lin Zhou is finally stable. I can finally go back to my hometown to take a look. Jiang Tian did not care about what Fu Lanjun was thinking. He allowed her to run out in a sorry state. However, his thoughts drifted to Jinling, to Qixia County, the place where he grew up. Walk slowly. Let dad and mom grow old slowly. Thinking about his parents whom he had not seen for 10,000 years, Jiang Tian's eyes were slightly moist but filled with excitement. At this moment, Zhao Xueqing, who had just finished her cultivation, walked up the stage in white silk pajamas. She smiled and said, Dad and Mom really missed you. This time even Dad called. She was beautiful. Coupled with the fact that she had cultivated, her aura was even more ethereal. Her first smile could topple a city and her second smile could topple a country. Is that so? Jiang Tian was slightly stunned as his eyes turned slightly moist. His father, Jiang Zhixing, should have been the deputy head of Xianxia County in his previous life. He was someone who worked in the system and was careful with his words and actions. He was introverted towards his own feelings and would not ask about him directly. However, it was often said that a father's love was like a mountain. Jiang Tian still remembered that after he had caused a huge mess by beating up that young master in Beijing, his father had actually disregarded his age and pride to apologize to that young master, begging for mercy and begging for mercy. After Jiang Tian was chased out of the family, his father seemed to have aged 10 years in an instant. He would drown his sorrows in alcohol and sigh. Within half a year his hair had turned completely white. I told Dad that you were researching the prescription. Even though he didn't believe me, his tone was filled with relief. Looking at Jiang Tian's reddened eyes, Zhou Xian thought that Jiang Tian had missed his parents after not seeing them for a year. She smiled and consoled him, Don't be sad. The formation is done and you've broken through. Let's hurry back to Xianxia County to take a look. Who would have known that Jiang Tian had not seen his parents for 10,000 years? How was that a year or two? It had been 10,000 years since Jiang Tian had committed suicide by jumping off the cliff and being taken away by his master to embark on the path of cultivation. In these 10,000 years, Jiang Tian had won countless battles and suppressed countless old demons and great demons. Many immortal emperors and gods' sons had submitted to him, causing the name of the Tai Chu Celestial Venerable to resound throughout the universe. Jiang Tian could be said to have gathered all the glory on his body. However, in the depths of Jiang Tian's heart, the person he felt the most guilty towards was Xue Qing. However, what he missed the most was his parents. After 10,000 years of vicissitudes, 10,000 years of ups and downs, and now Jiang Tian was about to return to the starting point. If Jiang Tian's memory was correct, Xianxia County would hold an investment conference soon. It was at this conference that his father was framed for corruption and bribery and was arrested and sent to prison. This framing also became the signal for the three big families of Jinling to launch an all-out attack on the Jiang family. 4 years later, the Medicine King Group was maliciously acquired by them and became the last straw that broke the Jiang family's back. Chapter 144. In his previous life, Jiang Tian was not famous and could not do anything. He could only watch as the Jiang family was destroyed. In this life, Jiang Tian returned in a strong and powerful manner. He would not allow such a tragedy to happen again. Those demons and monsters who coveted the Jiang family deserved to be killed. They all deserved to die. Jiang Tianyu, Zhao Xueqing was shocked. She could feel a terrifying murderous aura emanating from Jiang Tian's body. Jiang Tian was usually calm and carefree. Even if he met a strong enemy, he would not bat an eyelid even if Mount Tai collapsed in front of him. She had only felt Jiang Tian's terrifying murderous aura when Li Pingtao was molesting her. The second time was now. I'm fine. Jiang Tian retracted the murderous aura in the depths of his heart and smiled warmly at Zhao Xueqing. Have you finished packing? Yes. There are 8 fortune bracelets for Grandpa and Mom and Dad, pills, tonics. Zhao Xueqing reported with great familiarity. Let's go. Let's go now. Jiang Tian nodded calmly, but he could not wait any longer. In fact, Jiang Tian had wanted to return to Xianxia County for a long time. However, Jiangnan was still unsettled and Wei Shuofeng was still concerned about it. He was not at ease. Moreover, he had not broken through to the mid-stage of qi refining, so he had to wait for a few more months. He had not seen them for 10,000 years. When he thought of his parents, Jiang Tian's guilt and longing became even more severe. This had been tormenting him for 10,000 years. At this moment, Jiang Tian could not wait to fly to his parents' side. When they set off, Jiang Tian wanted to drive the Rolls-Royce Phantom, but Zhao Xueqing stopped him. Mom has always been worried that we will spend money recklessly. If we drive this over, she will be furious. And what Qinger said makes sense. Then let's drive your Chevrolet. Jiang Tian nodded. Ghost Kick and Shen Mange placed all of Jiang Tian's gifts in the trunk and asked, Master Mistress, should we follow them? Ghost Kick, you stay at home and take care of the house. Mange, you come with us, Jiang Tian said with a faint smile. The spirit-gathering formation contained many natural treasures. If an expert were to discover it, they would definitely covet it. Thus, it was better to leave the ghost leg behind. Afterwards, Xin Mange drove the car while Jiang Tian and Zhou Xian sat in the back, hand in hand. They headed towards Qixia County. Lingnan was located in the southern part of Wuxia, while Jinling was located in the Jiangsu province. It was located in the eastern coastal area of Wuxia, separated by Gan province and Insignia province. Along the way, the Chevrolet only arrived at the highway intersection of Qixia County in the evening of the second day. On the way, he received a call from his father's chauffeur, Little Son, saying that he would send a car to pick him up. Jiang Tian politely refused. Brother Son, forget it. I'm driving my own car. Don't worry about it. After exiting the highway intersection, a Porsche Cayenne stopped at the intersection. A tall and sloppy young man wearing a leather jacket stood beside the car. When he saw Jiang Tian's car coming over, he waved his hand vigorously. Xin Mange stopped the car. Just as Jiang Tian got out of the car, the young man had already rushed over. Jiang Tian, you're not loyal. After the young man and Jiang Tian hugged tightly, he punched Jiang Tian's chest. His eyes were red as he glared at Jiang Tian and roared, I'll kill you. It's been 3 years. Where the hell have you been? I've been looking for you for 3 years. Zhou Xian and Xin Mange were surprised. They didn't expect that the young man who had just hugged Jiang Tian so passionately and even shed 2 lines of tears, would hit Jiang Tian in the blink of an eye. Jiang Tian looked at the angry young man and sighed in his heart. Marshal Zhen, when did I go to Linzhou to hang out? I went to the outer space to hang out for 10,000 years. Alright, Marshal Zhen, Jiang Tian is different now. It's not convenient for him to come back. In a Volkswagen Golf next to them, a young man wearing a pair of gold-rimmed glasses came out and advised. What's there to be afraid of? At least in Qixia County it's our territory. Marshal Zhen said disdainfully. Then he shouted angrily, I heard that kid threatened to take care of you. Back then I carried a knife and went to the hospital where he was staying. Unfortunately he ran away. Otherwise I would have killed him. Do you have to hide from him? Let's not talk about other things. In Qixia County he dares to provoke you. In his mind memories came one after another. Marshal Zhen's father was the director of the county's public security bureau. The mature young man was called Tan Guangshu. His father was also a small cadre in the county. After graduation he became a civil servant in the county government. He worked under Jiang Tian's father. Before the second year of high school, Marshal Zhen and Tan Guangshu, who lived together in the county government's courtyard, were Jiang Tian's best friends and playmates. Before the age of 5, they stole sunflowers from the kindergarten together. They spat at passers-by downstairs together for fun. In elementary school, this group of precocious playboys watched embarrassing videos together. They threw bricks into the teacher's private toilet together. They climbed through the window together to peek at the girls' bathhouse together. In junior high school, they skipped class together to play the King of Fighters in the game hall. The teacher called their parents and punished them to stand together. In high school, more than 10 children from the county government's courtyard fought against more than 100 children from the county government's courtyard. They held knives and hacked at each other. In the end, they were outnumbered and chased the other side down the street. Among the few of us, I'm the most useless. Standing with you guys, I feel like I'm useless. Jiang Tian said with a sigh. This was Jiang Tian's true thoughts during that time in his previous life. Although he was a playboy, he was also loyal and didn't want to implicate his brothers. Bullshit. If you say that, it means you don't treat us as brothers. Marshal Zhen's tears flowed like crazy. He pointed at Jiang Tian and roared, How difficult is it? Can't we handle it together? But you left Xianxia without saying a word. You didn't even leave a phone number. Where do you want us to go to find you? Jiang Tian was silent. However, a warm current welled up in his heart. Marshal Zhen, don't be angry. Zhou Xian walked up and said, Actually, Jiang Tian hasn't forgotten about you. He often mentions you guys to me. He wants to make some achievements himself before looking for you guys. Is there a need for that? Marshal Zhen suddenly turned around and angrily glared at Zhou Xian. He was so angry that he vented his anger at everyone. Is there a need for us to prove anything to him? Even if he's a murderer, the 3 of us will go to jail for him. At worst we'll go to jail with him. If he's a drug addict, the three of us will let him smoke. He's scum. The three of us will stand beside him. Let's see who the fuck dares to scold him. Zhou Xian was slightly stunned. She didn't know how to persuade the angry Marshal Zhen. Marshal Zhen glanced at Jiang Tian. He opened the door of the Porsche Cayenne and sat in. He cast a sidelong glance at Jiang Tian and sneered, "You're so boring." "You're boring?" Jiang Tian retorted. "You're boring." Marshal Zhen's voice rose a few octaves. "You're even more boring." Jiang Tian noticed that the frost on Marshal Zhen's face was melting bit by bit. The corner of his mouth slowly rose into a smile. He laughed and said, "You're smiling, smiling, smiling." "Who's smiling at you?" Marshal Zhen shouted coldly. But in the end his handsome face couldn't hold back anymore. He burst into laughter. "All right, brother, don't be angry." Jiang Tian walked to his side and patted Marshal Zhen's shoulder. The valiant Commander Zhen was now like a young couple who was having an argument. He shrugged his shoulders and pretended to be angry. "Jiang Tian, don't you dare touch me. All right, let's go eat. I've booked a restaurant to welcome Jiang Tian." Tan Guangxu looked at the time and smiled. The location of the dinner was the best hotel in Xianxia County, Xianxia Hotel. But it was only a 4-star hotel. Although the decoration was luxurious, it was filled with the aura of a nouveau riche. Not to mention Yangqing, it couldn't even be compared to Linzhou. Su province's economy had developed well in the 1990s. But now it was far behind Lingnan and Zhonghai. What's more, Xianxia County was only a small county. As the host and the guests sat down, Zhen Shuai glanced at Shen Mange. His eyes flickered with a sly light as he clicked his tongue in wonder. He lowered his voice and laughed. "Jiang Tian, it seems that you're developing well in Linzhou. The secretary seat is so smooth. If she were in our Xianxia County, she would definitely be the #1 beauty." He squinted his eyes and laughed. "If there's something to do during the day, the secretary will do it at night. Stop fooling around. Your sister-in-law is here." Jiang Tian was embarrassed. He was afraid that this guy would talk about the embarrassing incident of him picking up girls and fishing for rich guys. It would damage the glorious image he had painstakingly created in front of his beloved wife. Shen Mange, who was pouring tea for everyone, chuckled. "Young Master Zhen, you're mistaken. I'm Jiang Tian's maid." "Maid?" Hearing this, Marshal Zhen couldn't believe it and stood there in a daze. This guy was originally a playboy. He immediately thought of 3 possibilities and laughed. "Oh, the woman who serves you at night? You often do this kind of thing when you're in Jinling." Okay, stop talking nonsense. Let's eat and drink." Jiang Tian's head was filled with black lines. This guy had touched a sore spot. Seeing that Zhou Xian only smiled and wasn't angry, he felt relieved. Tan Guangxu was mature and steady. He and Jiang Tian talked about their parents' recent situation. However, Marshal Zhen was very talkative and talked about everything. "Jiang Tian, I've successfully entered the circle of Jinling's young masters." Marshal Zhen's face was red from drinking. He boasted, "I've drunk with Jinling's young master Sun Hao a few times. His business is very big. Compared to him, my business pales in comparison." Marshal Zhen's personality was lively. He used to work in the armed police. After he retired, he didn't follow his father's arrangement and became a police officer. Instead, he started doing business in Jinling in Xianxia County. Earth, stone, sand, metal, pipes, and so on. He made a lot of money. Hearing the 2 words Sun Hao, Jiang Tian's handsome face was covered in a layer of frost. He clenched his fist and with a crack the cup shattered. His eyes were filled with killing intent. In his previous life, it was one of the 3 major families, the Sun family, that forced the Medicine King Group to go bankrupt. Even the car accident on the highway might have been caused by him. This hatred had tormented Jiang Tian for 10,000 years. Whenever he thought about it, his hatred would reach the heavens and the demon in his heart would be deeply planted. "In this life, when I return, I'll make sure you're in a life and death situation and destroy your family." Chapter 145. The young master of Jinling's Sun family? He's in the real estate business, right? Tan Guangxu, who had been quietly eating, suddenly asked. "That's right, it's him." Zhen Shuai smiled. "Those young masters basically drive sports cars like Maserati and Lamborghini. It's embarrassing to put my Porsche Cayenne in front of them." Tan Guangxu's face turned gloomy as he frowned. Don't you know that he has a real estate project in Xianxia County? Xianxia smiled awkwardly as his eyes turned gloomy. He has so many projects that I can't even count them all. How would I know? Seeing this, Jiang Tian silently drank a cup of wine and sighed in his heart. Looks like Xianxia isn't doing well in Jinling. You've suffered a lot. Xianxia, you better stay away from Sun Hao. He's not a good person. Tan Guangshu said solemnly as he gently placed the teacup on the table. What do you mean? Xianxia was puzzled. Tan Guangshu's face sank as he frowned. Do you know why Jiang Tian's mother has been so worried recently? It's because of this Sun Hao. Why is my mother worried? Jiang Tian asked with a frown. In his previous life he only went back to clean up the mess after the Jiang family was completely destroyed. As for the details, he wasn't clear about it. So it's like this. Hearing Tan Guangshu's words, Jiang Tian finally understood. Xianxia Pharmaceutical Factory was the place where the Medicine King Corporation was founded. It was also one of the largest research bases. But in this era, TCM was declining and its profits were limited. On the other hand, real estate was developing rapidly. Jinling's Sun family's Dynasty Real Estate Group had long set their eyes on the pharmaceutical factory. Dynasty Real Estate Group controlled the Tiandan Pharmaceutical Company and ordered 100 million worth of goods from Zhang Wanqing with a deadline of 3 months. And if they violated the contract and couldn't guarantee the quality of the goods, they would have to pay a compensation of 1 billion. This year, the Medicine King Corporation's products weren't selling well under the pressure of the Qin family's herbal group. Zhang Wanqing was naturally very happy to receive this order. She used all the funds of the branch company to purchase raw materials and started the production at full capacity. Unexpectedly, when the goods were delivered a month ago, CEO Ma of Tianduan Pharmaceutical was picky. He took out the test results of the Provincial Food and Drug Administration and said that the product did not meet the standards. He refused to accept it and demanded 1 billion yuan in compensation. He even sued Zhang Wanqing in court. With the support of Sun Hao, who had a powerful background and had bribed everyone, how could Zhang Wanqing not lose the case? He had to pay $1 billion in compensation, and he also had to pay $100 million for the goods. One had to know that it was 2007. 1 billion was a huge sum of compensation for the Medicine King Group, whose capital chain was already in jeopardy. They could not afford it at all. The Tianyan Group offered to dismantle the Xianxia Pharmaceutical Factory and compensate the Tianyan Group with land. Only now did Zhang Wanqing and the others realize that Sun Hao was behind all of this. However, the lawsuit had already been lost. Zhang Wanqing and the Jiang family were helpless and could only wait for them to forcefully demolish the building. Hearing this, Jiang Tian completely recalled everything. He clenched his fists and his face became as gloomy as water. His father being framed and imprisoned, and the forced demolition of the Xianxia Pharmaceutical Factory, had all happened during this period. His father was still a county magistrate and could still say a few words in the standing committee. If Sun Hao wanted to get this piece of land, he must first get rid of his father, who was the biggest obstacle. Originally, under the attack of the Qin family of Jinling and the herbal group, the Medicine King Group was already in imminent danger. The forced demolition of the Xianxia Pharmaceutical Factory, the most important production base, along with the destruction of the scientific research equipment and many patented formulas purchased at a high price, was the last straw that broke the Medicine King Group's back. Sun Hao, is it? In my previous life, you repeatedly humiliated me and beat my Jiang family until we couldn't fight back. This time when I return, I must consign you to eternal damnation and put you in a dilemma between life and death. A sharp murderous intent flashed in Jiang Tian's eyes. This Sun Hao is actually such a bastard. After hearing this, Xianxia was so angry that he slammed the table and said angrily, Xianxia, what I mean is, if you and Sun Hao are familiar with each other, can you ask him to give you a way out? After 2 years of experience in the officialdom, Tan Guangshu had become very calm. When considering problems, he pointed out the pros and cons. He was flexible and put his emotions at the back. Xianxia suddenly took a sip of white wine and his face turned red. He looked at the dreary night scene outside the window and was silent for a long time. Then he lowered his head and said with an ashen face, Little Tian Guangshu, actually I was lying to you. Without waiting for Tan Guangshu to ask, Xianxia laughed at himself and said, At that time, I saw Sun Hao at an underground racing track in Jinling. I wanted to participate in the race, But he slapped me and said that I came from a small place and that my car was too bad. I didn't deserve to play with them. His hands were slightly trembling as he said with a trembling voice, "At that time my girlfriend was there. I wanted to fight back but I didn't dare." Tears rolled down his face as he bitterly said, "I originally thought that my father was a bureau chief in Xianxia County. But I never expected that in the eyes of those young masters in Jinling I'm nothing. I'm not even qualified to be their underling." Tan Guangxu gently sighed as he handed over a tissue and said, "Don't cry. You're just like a woman." Zhou Xian wiped his tears and smiled, "That's right. I was just bragging. Now that I've spoken the truth I feel much better. If you guys want to laugh at me then laugh at me." Tan Guangxu pondered for a brief moment before he patted Zhou Xian's shoulder and said, "If you really can't do it, then don't go to Jinling. Isn't your hometown good enough?" Zhou Xian shook his head and sighed, "My father is going to retire this year. When the time comes no one will give face to my father. How am I going to do business?" He gritted his teeth and said, "I must take root in Jinling. One day I will climb above their heads. I will give that bastard son a slap and give him a good scolding. Somehow, right? I'll make him kneel before you and apologize within a week." Jiang Tian's eyes flickered with a cold light as he slowly said, "Holy shit, Jiang Tian, I'm convinced by your domineeringness. You even dare to hit a young master in Yanjing, so what are those bastards in Jinling?" Zhou Xian was delighted. He raised his glass and clinked it with Jiang Tian's before gulping it down. Naturally, Zhou Xian only treated it as Jiang Tian's words. Back then Jiang Tian was expelled from Jinling because he offended a powerful figure. So how could he dare to provoke Sun Hao? Sun Hao was a young master in Jinling with a powerful background. Even the entire Jiang family couldn't afford to offend him. Jiang Tian couldn't fall in the same place twice. Otherwise he would be a fool. "Jiang Tian, don't be impulsive." Tan Guangxu took it seriously. He frowned and advised, "From what I know, Sun Hao is different from Qin Bo and the others. It's said that this person's background is very complicated. He controls a society and has guns in his hands." Jiang Tian didn't find this strange. In 2007, Wuxia's business circle was still in the stage of barbaric growth. The rule of law wasn't perfect, and those involved in real estate were often inextricably linked to local societies. Seeing his old friend's anxious face, Jiang Tian nodded and said, "I understand. Don't worry, the atmosphere was a little heavy." Jiang Tian started to talk about some interesting childhood stories with them, and everyone's mood gradually relaxed. In Xianxia County, Qin Jinming and Qing Yi were also very close to Jiang Tian. However, the two of them didn't develop in Xianxia County. Qin Jinming was the most promising among their brothers. After high school his family arranged for him to go to university in America. Now he had less contact with them and hadn't come back even once in a few years. In fact, in his previous life after the Jiang family situation, Jiang Tian had contacted Qin Jinming, who worked at Tiger Fund Corporation on Wall Street. And Qin Jinming really did come back with the title of an elite on Wall Street. He pulled in investments from investors all over the world to save the Medicine King Group. But at that time the fundamentals of the Medicine King Group were already broken. Although Qin Jinming was quite talented in finance and spent a lot of effort, even losing tens of millions of USD, the Medicine King Group was still controlled by the other three big families in Jinling. It was because of his apology and gratitude to Qin Jinming that Jiang Tian, who knew that the financial crisis in America was coming, made an overseas call to Qin Jinming in May of this year, asking him to short American subprime real estate mortgage bonds. With Qin Jinming's shrewdness and good judgment he should have made a lot of money from this subprime mortgage crisis. And Qing Yi's background was even more mysterious. When the Jiang family was in danger he once told Jiang Tian that there might be martial artists behind them. He even suggested using special methods to help Jiang Tian. But at that time, Jiang Tian didn't know about the existence of these things. When he told his family they politely refused. "Ah, General Guangxu, I saw General Zhen's Lao Ziqian coming in from downstairs. You're all here." The three brothers were chatting happily when suddenly, the door was pushed open and a fat man with a big belly walked in with a mocking face. Beside him, there was a tall and beautiful woman who was still wearing a miniskirt in the cold of autumn. The girl's small face was exquisitely made up. She had big watery eyes, bright red lips, big breasts, a thin waist and a seductive curve from her waist to her crotch. Her legs were also slender and straight, comparable to snow. In this small town she looked particularly fashionable and youthful, like a crane in a flock of chickens. She was very eye-catching. Seeing them, Jiang Tian's eyes flickered slightly, but he didn't have much reaction. He calmly sipped his tea. This fat man was Zhao Wuji, the son of the county party secretary Zhao Junlin. When he was young, he was the king of the children in the county party's courtyard, while Jiang Tian and the others were from the county party's courtyard. Since kindergarten he had been fighting with Jiang Tian and the other children. In high school this guy was jealous of Jiang Tian and was almost chopped to death by Jiang Tian. Since then the two groups often had conflicts. According to Jiang Tian's memory, this guy started a construction company in Xianxia County. The company wasn't big, but under his father's care he made a lot of money and had tens of millions of assets. He was really one of the richest tycoons in the area. In his previous life this guy often bullied Jiang Tian, but in Jiang Tian's eyes, it was just a harmless joke. There was no deep hatred between them. Jiang Tian had been cultivating for 10,000 years and had seen too many ups and downs. Why would he care about a passerby like him? My car is old, your car is new. What's so great about driving a Mercedes-Benz? Get out of here, you're not welcome here. The mature Tan Guangshu only smiled and didn't say anything. However, Zhen Shuai's face was full of disdain, and his eyes were about to fly out of his eye sockets. Zhen Shuai, I'm here to tell you something. Talk to Jiang Tian's mother and ask her to give up the land. It won't be good if there's a forced demolition. Zhao Wuji was a very boring and thick-skinned person. He wasn't angry. In fact, the angrier you were, the happier he was. At that moment, the young girl behind Zhao Wuji pulled his sleeve and said coquettishly, "Look at who that is. Oh my god. Isn't this the great playboy of Jiang Tian? I heard that you're so awesome that you beat up some young master in Yanjing. Now you're so awesome that you're in outer space. Why are you back?" Zhao Wuji suddenly slapped his thigh and said sarcastically. Chapter 146. Zhao Wuji held Jiang Tian's hand passionately and teased, "What's wrong? You can't make it? I think you drove a Chevrolet back home. That car is only 100,000, it's too shabby. It's not worthy of your status. Even my housekeeper is better than your car." He smacked the key to the Benz on the table and pulled a chair to sit down. He smiled and said, "I have an Audi A8, and it's only been driven for 40,000 kilometers. I don't like it, so I don't drive it. Why don't I give it to you?" "Give it to me for free?" "Absolutely." Jiang Tian smiled and did not bicker with him. Zhao Wuji did not expect that Jiang Tian would not listen to him even though he was so ruthless. Instead he wanted his car. He smiled awkwardly and said, "I'm not giving it to you for free, I'm selling it to you." "Sorry, I don't want second-hand goods." Jiang Tian glanced at the girl behind him calmly. He felt that she looked familiar, but he could not recall who she was. Zhao Wuji's face stiffened when he heard that. The girl was enraged. She pointed at Jiang Tian and scolded, "Jiang Tian, who are you calling second-hand goods? You really don't know what's good for you. Do you think you're still that hedonistic young master? You've been kicked out of your family, and you still have the face to show off in front of me." She said arrogantly, "My dad has been transferred to Jinling City's Commission for Discipline Inspection. One word and your dad will be finished. Now that you've offended me, you still want to live well? You're going to die." After that she walked away in her high heels. Zhao Wuji followed her out of the door. He smiled sinisterly and said, "Jiang Tian, don't blame me for not warning you. You're in trouble." "Is she crazy? Did I do anything to her?" Jiang Tian was confused. "Jiang Tian, stop joking. Did you forget? Tang Jialin's virginity was taken by you." Zhen Shuai said softly while holding back his laughter. "Oh, so it's her." When Jiang Tian heard this, he was stunned for a moment before bursting into laughter. Zhang Wanqing had moved the headquarters of the Medicine King Group to Jinling when she was still in elementary school in Jiangtian. As for Jiang Tian, he stayed with his father in Xianxia County. However, his father was also very busy with work, so how could he have the time to take care of him? As a result, Jiang Tian, who had no one to control him, quickly became a devil incarnate. He often skipped classes, got into fights, and started dating when he was in junior high school. The object of this puppy love was Tang Jialin. At that time the two of them had kissed and Tang Jialin had thought that she had lost her virginity. She had told a few of her close friends about it and after a while, the news had spread throughout the circle of the second generation in Xianxia County. Come to think of it, the fight between Jiang Tian and Zhao Wuji in high school was also because of Tang Jialin. As a result, even after Jiang Tian had gone to university, many years after the incident, Jiang Tian was still known as the person who had taken Tang Jialin's virginity during class gatherings. When Jiang Tian had said those words in front of Tang Jialin's boyfriend, it was inevitable that she would overthink it and get angry. However, Jiang Tian didn't take this matter to heart and continued to chat with the two brothers. They drank until 11 o'clock at night when the restaurant was about to close. Only then did the drinking session end. After eating and drinking to their heart's content, they drove home. Xianxia suddenly looked at the rearview mirror and smiled. Interesting, those two cars have been following us. It's Fatty Zhao and Tang Jialin. They also brought 7 or 8 thugs. Jiang Tian had already sensed it. He smiled faintly and said, then drive the car to Mount Wu and play with them. Master, they're just people from the secular world. It's not good to kill them like this. Xianxia pondered for a moment and said softly, besides, Madam is here watching. You're wrong. They're not the target. There's another car following us. Jiang Tian smiled faintly and sighed. There are a few real masters in that car. Xianxia finally noticed that there was a commercial car following them from afar. She nodded, adjusted the navigation and drove towards Mount Wu in the northern suburbs. In the Mercedes-Benz behind them, Tang Jialin's fiery gaze almost shot through the Chevrolet in front of them and burned Jiang Tian alive. She said angrily, why don't we just let my dad investigate his dad? Isn't it too easy for him to beat him up? Linlin, you can't do that. That's killing him. Zhao Wuji smiled and said, after all, we're from the same place. How can we be so ruthless? We just need to vent our anger. Then we must break one of his legs. Anyway, he's in the Jiang family now. His uncle doesn't care about him and his grandma doesn't love him. No one cares. Tang Jialin waved her fists and said angrily, don't worry. These brothers of mine are very popular in Xianxia. Just wait and see. Jiang Tian will definitely kneel down and apologize to you. Zhao Wuji said with a proud smile as he picked up a soft Chunghua cigarette and started smoking. At the end of the mountain road in Mount Wu, the mountain road ahead was cut off. This place was deserted and was close to the wilderness. Xianxia stopped the car and Jiang Tian got out. Tang Jialin jumped out of the car. Surrounded by a few strong men, she arrogantly approached Jiang Tian. She pointed at Jiang Tian and scolded, Jiang Tian, kneel down and apologize to me. Otherwise I'll kill you. Don't be so reckless. There will be masters coming later. Don't scare you when I kill them. Jiang Tian waved his hand and smiled. What masters are coming? You're going to kill them? Tang Jialin was slightly taken aback. Then she said with disdain, are you bragging or have you been scared silly by me? In his opinion, Jiang Tian was just a good-for-nothing young master who had lost his power. He was just a piece of trash that could be easily manipulated by him. Killing people, was that a joke? That was a prison sentence. Jiang Tian dared to do it? Tang Jialin, who was born in an ordinary cadre family, had a normal way of thinking. She believed that Jiang Tian could fight, but she didn't believe Jiang Tian's words at all. Sister Linlin, don't talk nonsense with him. I'm going to cut his hamstring. One of the strong men said fiercely with a sharp knife in his hand. At this moment Jiang Tian looked at the dense forest on the mountain peak and said coldly, aren't you tired after following me all the way? Hurry up and come out. I still have to take care of you and go back to sleep with my wife. Where's he? Is he crazy? He's just bluffing. Hurry up and kill him. Everyone glanced at the dense forest and found nothing unusual. Then they pointed at Jiang Tian and scolded him. Master Kong is indeed powerful. The old man is here. Suddenly, a chilling aura came toward them. A few people slowly walked out of the dense forest. The leader of the group was a skinny, dark-skinned man in his 50s. He wore a loose yellow monk's robe and wore hemp shoes on his bony feet. He held an alms bowl in one hand and a pitch-black monk's staff in the other. If Wuxia's Dharma spell masters were here, they would have screamed in fear. He was the #1 evil monk in Southeast Asia, Baong of Kun Tian. His Dharma spell mastery had reached the level of initial ethereal enlightenment. He was an expert in dark arts such as Tame Head. He could kill people from 100 miles away with Tame Head. The other person had a muscular upper body with lumps of meat sticking out. His skin looked like it was carved out of metal, shining with a strange luster. His sturdy arms were wrapped with hemp ropes, and his tiger-like eyes were bursting with light. His eyes were as gloomy as the devil's. He was unusually tall and his aura was domineering like a tiger that had just been released from its cage. It was unforgettable. If there was a martial arts expert here, he would also be terrified. This person was the ancient Muay Thai master Meng Kong. He had once dominated the underground boxing arena in Southeast Asia and had never lost a fight. His strength was comparable to Wuxia's physique refinement grandmaster. Besides them, there was also a young man who wore casual clothes and carried a treasured sword on his back. He had an otherworldly temperament, and he was the eldest disciple of Star Continent's #1 expert, Wang Chongyan Fan Tian. Jiang Tian did not know these three people, but he recognized the girl behind them. He immediately put his hands behind his back and sneered. "Guilili, why are you following me? You followed me all the way from Linzhou to Jin City. Don't tell me you like me?" Jiang Tian said disdainfully. "Don't get your hopes up. It's hopeless. You're too ugly and bad-tempered. You can't be compared to my wife. Why would I like a barbarian like you?" Guilili hated Jiang Tian so much that the roots of her teeth itched when she saw him. Now that she saw him teasing her, she was so angry that her whole body trembled. Her pretty face immediately turned cold. She ground her fine silver teeth and sneered, "I told you long ago that I'm not someone you can afford to offend. But in White Ape Valley you disrespected me time and time again and even dared to hit me. Today your death date has arrived." She raised her chin proudly and said, "Brat, hurry up and hand over those life crystals. Otherwise I'll kill you. You want to rob me? You can try. I'll slap you to death." Jiang Tian spat on his hands and laughed evilly. Bong of Kun Tian said calmly, "Benefactor Jiang, the heavens are virtuous. Why are you so unreasonable? The head of the Guo family is seriously ill. Only life crystals can save him. If you give one to Miss Guo, we'll definitely reward you handsomely. Otherwise what?" Jiang Tian smiled faintly. "You've seen it for yourself. Our Xingzhou police's top 3 experts are here. Killing you will be like killing a dog." Bong of Kun Tian said with a sinister smile. "Wuxia is a lawful society. There are police officers here. Murder and arson? Where do you think this is? His father is the local deputy mayor. Mine is the deputy director of Jin City's disciplinary committee. We just need to make a phone call and the police will come to arrest you." When Tang Jialin saw that a group of people had suddenly rushed over and hindered her from taking care of Jiang Tian, especially Guilili, who was more fashionable and beautiful than herself, she immediately became angry. "Where did you come from, wild girl? You're behaving atrociously in our Xianxia county. Hurry up and get lost." "Haha, so funny." Guilili almost burst out laughing when she heard that. She said disdainfully, "A little deputy county head and a deputy department head are nothing. Do you know that even the mayor of Jinling City has to bow his head when he sees the Guo family?" Tang Jialin was used to flaunting her power in Jin City and Xianxia County. How could she endure Guilili's anger? She waved her hand impatiently and said, "Wu Lin beat her." Wu Lin was the guy with the sharp knife. He was Zhao Wuji's #1 hired thug. Normally his combat strength was quite strong. Now that he heard his mistress's order, he immediately pointed the knife at Guilili and approached her. He scolded, "Little bitch, are you going to get out or not? Don't get in the way of me beating people. If you dawdle here, we'll take turns and ruin your face." Noisy. Meng Kong's eyes flickered with an ominous glint. He leaped forward and slapped Wu Lin's head. Bang. At this moment, balls of blood filled the air and filled everyone's mouths and noses. Everyone only saw Wu Lin's head explode like a rotten watermelon. Chapter 147. By God. Wu Lin's companions were terrified to the point they cried out involuntarily, their souls leaving their bodies as they trembled. Clang, clang. With a few clangs, weapons such as daggers and knives all fell to the ground from fright. Normally they only abused their power in this small county. Fighting in groups and bullying the common people was still possible, but killing and plundering was something they didn't even dare think about. The scene before their eyes had completely exceeded their expectations. Smashing a person's head into pieces with a raise of his hand, this was simply extremely vicious. Could it be that he didn't have the slightest concept of the law? Quickly run. Tang Jialan was terrified to the point her beautiful face went ghastly pale. Then she got into the Mercedes-Benz in a sorry state and urged anxiously. Zhao Yuanji, quickly start the car. Zhao Yuanji, who was originally hiding in the car with the intention of watching a good show, had long since been scared out of his wits, and he immediately started the car in a flurry when he saw this. The Mercedes-Benz was like an agile cheetah as it emitted a wave of low and powerful roars as it madly dashed out. Meng Kong, stop them, don't let them call the police. Ba Song of Heaven shouted in a low voice. Although they were strong, they were foreigners after all. If they were to start a massacre in Wuxia, they would surely encounter the military and police's siege, and it would be rather troublesome and troublesome. Yes. Meng Kong replied, then his long legs moved and he'd already shot out explosively like an arrow, catching up to the Mercedes-Benz like a galloping horse. He stood before the car with steady footsteps, seeming to be extremely relaxed as he raised his hand and shouted. Stop. I'll kill you. At this moment, how could Zhao Yuanji care about anything else? He steeled his heart, clenched his teeth and stepped on the accelerator to the max, causing the car to suddenly accelerate. Rumble. An enormous sound echoed out as the Mercedes-Benz collided with Meng Kong's legs. However, he only took a step back and his feet firmly plunged into the asphalt road, forcefully causing the Mercedes-Benz to turn off and stop. The Mercedes-Benz seemed as if it collided with a large mountain as its four wheels flew into the air, then heavily fell down. The bumper and hood were severely deformed and damaged, and the front of the car emitted billowing black smoke. Oh my God, is he still human? Zhao Yuanji was scared to the point that his face went pale. The fat on his entire body ceaselessly trembled as he tightly hugged Tang Jialan, who was scared to the point tears streamed down her face. Whoever dares to run will die. Kneel. Meng Kong laughed savagely as he swept his gaze around the surroundings. Everyone was so frightened that they stopped in their tracks and knelt down on the ground one after another. All of them trembled and didn't even dare to move. Master Kun Tian, Senior Meng Kong, please capture this brat and force him to hand over the life crystals. Seeing this, Guo Lily's face was filled with pride as she shouted. Miss Guo, don't be in such a hurry. I want to rape you first. Meng Kong looked at Tang Jialan, whose appearance was so beautiful that it could be said that she was a peerless stunner, and laughed nastily. He smashed the glass window with one fist, and like an eagle catching a little chick, he carried her out of the car. Then hurry up. Guo Lily saw this and did not stop him. Instead, she urged him. She knew that not only was Meng Kong bloodthirsty, he was also lustful, and it was very difficult to stop him. Moreover, this damned girl had been disrespectful to her time and time again, causing her to burn with anger. At this moment, she was actually happy to see this happen. Help! Help! Her clothes were torn apart by Meng Kong in a few moves, and Tang Jialan was frightened to the point her beautiful face turned pale as she trembled and screamed shrilly. Suddenly, she saw Jiang Tian standing there leisurely and she hurriedly shouted. Jiang Tian, save me. Didn't you say that you could kill them? If you save me, I'll accompany you to sleep. I'm still a virgin. Actually, she also didn't believe that Jiang Tian could deal with these terrifying experts. But now, the hired thugs were frightened to the point they knelt on the ground, and Zhao Yuanji was frightened to the point he wet his pants. Only Jiang Tian was standing there and was especially conspicuous. Even if there was only a trace of hope, she still had to grab onto it like a drowning person grabbing onto a life-saving straw. Seeing this, Jiang Tian lightly sighed. Meng Kong, is it? What ability does bullying a weak girl count as? If you still don't stop, I'll kill you. Stinking brat, you're too presumptuous. When Meng Kong heard these words, he instantly flew into a rage. He pulled up his pants and cast a sidelong glance at Jiang Tian. Do you know that my ancient Muay Thai has already reached perfection and is comparable to your grandmaster's? Killing you is like killing a chicken. Crocodile tail whip. He shouted out explosively, then stomped down towards Jiang Tian and rushed over explosively. A high whip kick swept towards Jiang Tian's neck. Ancient Muay Thai was known for its ferocious and violent attack power. Moreover, as an ancient inheritance, the condensed inner strength was abnormally strong. Subsequently, his leg violently swept out, and a crocodile formed from inner strength condensed behind him. This crocodile belonged to a primordial variant called the spiked crocodile. Its pupils were like needles, icy cold to the point it didn't contain the slightest trace of warmth. Saliva flowed from the corners of its mouth, and its sharp teeth were dense. Its entire body was black and shiny like armor, and on its back was a row of green spikes that were as thick as an infant's arm. Its long tail was like a steel whip as it swept towards Zhou Xian. What the hell is this thing? Heavens, why did a crocodile appear? Zhao Yuanji and the group of companions were all dumbstruck from shock. Their eyes dazzled and their minds shook as they utterly didn't dare believe their eyes. Zhang Tian, be careful. Tang Jialin cried out involuntarily and instinctively closed her eyes, not daring to look at the scene of Zhang Tian being kicked to death. She wasn't some great evil person, she only liked to throw her young mistemper and flaunt her strength. She wasn't willing to see Zhang Tian die an unnatural death. As far as she was concerned, Zhang Tian was only a profligate young master that didn't have the strength to truss up a chicken. No matter what, he wasn't a match for Meng Kong, who was strong like a rhinoceros or an elephant. Although Meng Kong's ancient Muay Thai is condensed with inner strength, it's comparable to the true chi of a grandmaster in the martial Tao of Wuxia. When he saw this, Baong of heaven of earth put his palms together with an expression of admiration. As far as he was concerned, Meng Kong couldn't kill Zhang Tian on the spot, but he would absolutely be able to injure Zhang Tian. Zhang Tian, now you know the ability of my Gua clan, right? Gua Lily was immensely complacent as she gritted her teeth and shouted coldly, seeming as if Zhang Tian would be deader than dead in the next moment. Is that so? Is your fleshly body very strong? Let me see exactly how strong it is. I want to use this pair of hands to smash your head into pieces. Zhang Tian smiled indifferently, then rolled up his sleeves to reveal a hand that was even more delicate than a girl's, and was crystalline and translucent to the point it seemed as if it was carved from jade. Subsequently, Zhang Tian greeted it with an extremely simple punch. Boom! Fist and leg collided together. Meng Kong's right leg that seemed as if it was cast from iron was like paper that shattered with a bang. Fresh blood gushed out like a tide, and minced flesh and broken bones scattered out in all directions like a celestial maiden scattering flowers. Under the bombardment of Zhang Tian's boundless strength, Meng Kong's thick body that was tall like a mountain flew up weightlessly like a rag doll. Meng Kong was still screaming miserably in midair when Zhang Tian had already followed up with a step. Then his left palm slapped down and directly slapped Meng Kong's head into his abdomen. Along with Zhang Tian's palm slapping down, Meng Kong's body split apart and fell in all directions. Whereas Zhang Tian's white clothes weren't stained with blood, as if all of this had never happened. In the blink of an eye, the #1 ancient Muay Thai expert Meng Kong died. The entire scene was deathly silent and everyone was dumbstruck. Oh my god. Is this still human? Why is this fellow so formidable now? Zhao Wuji and the others were shocked to the point they were dumbstruck. They didn't dare believe it and they were terrified to the point their souls almost left their bodies. Although they were only ordinary people, they were still able to discern how formidable Meng Kong was, as he was a terrifying existence that even a Mercedes-Benz couldn't kill. But he was actually slapped to death by Zhang Tian's palm. If Zhang Tian's palm slapped onto their bodies earlier, they would probably have instantly become a pile of minced meat. How is this possible? Bassoon of Kun Tian turned pale with fright as well. It was impossible for the ancient Muay Thai that Meng Kong cultivated to produce true chi, but it was able to develop inner strength that was comparable to a physique refinement grandmaster. Even if Zhang Tian was a physique refinement grandmaster, it was still impossible for him to kill Meng Kong so easily. Oh my god, this kid's strength is so strong. Gua Lily's heart skipped a beat as she hid behind Bassoon of Kun Tian. However, Bassoon of Kun Tian was Southeast Asia's #1 evil monk after all, and he was used to big battles. After a moment of shock, he quickly calmed down and said in a deep voice, "Zhang Tian, you're indeed strong enough. No wonder you can dominate Zhongbei at such a young age, and Master Kang's name is known all over the world. But you only have some achievements in martial arts, and you're definitely not a match for this poor monk's heavenly spells." He sneered proudly and said, "I'm proficient in Common Thong ghost arts, Tame Head, and the other top 10 evil arts in Nanyang. Within 10 steps I can kill you as easily as killing a chicken, Hee hee, demons and monsters, you're just a clown. You have the nerve to call yourself a master. Jiang Tian's face was calm and he didn't take it to heart at all. Jiang Tian, you're so arrogant. Bassoon of Kun Tian's face darkened as he shouted coldly, I respect you, that's why I call you Master Kong. If I don't respect you, who do you think you are? You're just a tyrant of Jiangbei. Do you know how many martial artists like you I've killed? You talk too much. If you want to fight, then hurry up. I still have to go home and drink soup. Jiang Tian sneered and said, Look at you, you look like a monkey. You came out to scare people in the middle of the night. Alright, as you wish. Bassoon of Kun Tian almost vomited blood because of Jiang Tian's poisonous tongue. The staff in his hand shook and a few thumb-sized dolls fell from the golden ring. The dolls grew bigger with the wind and immediately became a few pink, chubby and cute little girls. However, they changed shape as soon as they rolled on the ground. They had green faces and fangs and red light shot out from their deep-set eye sockets. Their bodies and arms were disproportionate, and their arms were so long that they reached below their knees and touched the instep. They looked like monkeys. Kuman Thong's entire body was made of white bones and its skin and flesh were dry. Black and yellow corpse oil kept dripping down and it stank. However, one could not tell that the skeleton was fragile. Seemed very powerful. Especially on those dense white bones, there were countless faintly floating and circulating incantations. Traces of terrifying and strange aura were emitted from the flowing incantations. Anyone who saw it would know that this terrifying demonic creature was not to be trifled with. What is this? Tang Jialin was so scared that her face turned pale. She covered her mouth and exclaimed, Is this an evil spirit? It's too scary. Master, please spare our lives. We're just bystanders. Please let us go. Zhao Yuanji and his companions were also trembling in fear. They knelt on the ground and kowtowed. If there was a spell master here, he would definitely be scared out of his wits. This Kuman Thong was extremely fast. It appeared and disappeared, and when it launched a fatal attack, no martial artist or spell master could lock onto it. It was really impossible to guard against. Master Bassoon, is this Kuman Thong? It's really powerful. Guo Lily was very afraid of Jiang Tian just now. But when Bassoon of Kun Tian used the Kuman Thong's secret technique, she immediately became 100 times more confident. That's right. Bassoon of Kun Tian stood proudly with a Zen staff in his hand. He sneered and said, I killed 9 babies, then wrapped them in a cloth with scriptures written on it. I wrote spells on the babies' bodies and placed them on the sacred fire for 49 days to become a Kuman Thong doll. These Kuman Thongs have powerful Dharma powers and are invulnerable. They don't feel any pain and can eat souls. Even a master of the transcendent state would not be able to resist them. Everyone was shocked when they heard that. They felt as if they had fallen into an ice cellar. Chapter 148. Killing babies cruelly and roasting them into thumb-sized puppets wrapped in scriptures. How cruel and terrifying was that? Mange, what is this? Looks so scary. In the Chevrolet, Zhao Xueqing asked curiously with a frown. This is called Kuman Thong. Shen Mange had a certain understanding of spells after all, so she immediately explained. Kuman Thong meant golden child in Chinese. It was a strange holy object that had been passed down in Thailand for hundreds of years. It could bring considerable wealth to the person who supported it, but it was also very fierce and dangerous. On one hand, they had to find babies and kill them. The crueler the method, the stronger the resentment of the child, and the stronger the evil spirit could be created. Other than that, they had to carve runes and chant scriptures. Only then could the vengeful spirit listen to their orders. The monks in Thailand were called Venerable Father. Legend had it that the first Kuman Thong was born from Venerable Father. However, later on, the process of making Kuman Thong went against the monks' commandment not to kill. Therefore, some of the monks returned to the secular world and made Kuman Thong or learned the process from the secular world. These people were called Azan in Thailand, which meant teacher. They were special witchcraft masters or mages. Since then, the technique of making Kuman Thong became popular in Thailand. There were often cases of Azan killing children to make Kuman Thong. However, Azan was so powerful that even the police couldn't do anything about it. After hundreds of years of development, the Kuman Thong technique was getting stronger and stronger, and the evil spirits created were getting stronger and stronger. Jiang Tianrun. Call the police. Tang Jialin was desperate. Jiang Tian was no match for him. Perhaps there was a chance of survival if she called the police. How dare you talk nonsense in front of me when you're just a little bit of zombie refinement? Jiang Tian shook his head in disdain. Die. The heavenly earth pine tree's face turned green from Jiang Tian's anger. He pointed his staff at Jiang Tian and shouted. Common Thong suddenly disappeared as if it had entered another space. The next moment it appeared around Jiang Tian. Many common thongs opened their mouths and bared their fangs. They waved their long arms and clawed and bit at Jiang Tian. Their movements were extremely violent and as fast as lightning. Thunder come. Jiang Tian held a piece of blackwood in his hand and shouted in a calm tone. Immediately, bolts of lightning that were as thick as an arm appeared on the wood. They flickered like silver snakes dancing wildly and winding like pythons, striking towards the common thong in all directions. Fuck, so Jiang Tian is the god of thunder. Zhao Wuji's eyes were lifeless as he mumbled to himself. He saw a scene that he would never forget for the rest of his life. Thunder-type magic treasure. The heavenly earth pine tree, who had been confident of victory, shrieked as if his chrysanthemum had burst. Thunder and lightning were extremely strong and vigorous, with a temperature of 10,000 degrees and extremely violent. Regardless of whether it was thunder-type magical treasures or spells, they were the most difficult to master. In this world there were only a handful of spellmasters who could control lightning. However, lightning was the most effective against evil and filthy things. Although his common thong was powerful, it was like meeting its nemesis when it encountered a thunder-type magical treasure. At that moment he wanted to summon the common thong back, but the lightning was too fast. Before he could send out an order, a few common thongs were turned into ashes by Jiang Tian's lightning and disappeared instantly. Gua Lily was so scared that her face turned pale. Her body trembled and she couldn't say a word. That was the common thong refined by the #1 evil monk in Southeast Asia, Heavenly Earth Pine Tree. He could even fight against an experienced transcendent grandmaster for a while. However, it was destroyed by Jiang Tian's attack. How terrifying and powerful was Jiang Tian. He can even control lightning. Looks like he's a calligraphy expert. In the next moment, Ba Song of the heavenly earth tapped his toes and shot down the mountain like an eagle without even turning around. He was running for his life. Gua Lily was dumbfounded and couldn't believe it. She had guessed the beginning, but she would never have guessed the ending. She didn't expect that Bassoon of the heavenly earth would turn around and flee after just one round with Jiang Tian. She was petrified. However, Gua Lily didn't know the fear in Heavenly Earth Pine Tree's heart. He was scared out of his wits. This kid is a Dharma and martial arts cultivator. That's terrifying. Damn it. How could the Gua family's intelligence be wrong? They didn't know that he's proficient in Dharma spells and can control the most difficult lightning. I'm afraid that he's at least in the late stage of ethereal enlightenment without a Tao body. A peerless overlord who cultivates both Dharma and martial arts in Jiangbei. This is unbelievable. It seems that only Wang Chongyan can suppress him. I'm definitely no match for him. The trees on both sides retreated quickly. Heavenly Earth Pine Tree's thoughts came one after another. As he ran for his life, he wailed and roared in his heart. Heavenly Earth Pine Tree, isn't it too late for you to run away now? Go to hell. Jiang Tian sighed and raised his hand to grab the thunder meteorite wood. A bolt of lightning appeared in his hand. He waved his hand and threw it out. He's following me? How can he be so fast? Heavenly Earth Pine Tree heard Jiang Tian's immortal will telepathy. In just a few seconds he had already run a few hundred meters away. He turned around in shock. My life is over. The silver snake in his eyes grew bigger and bigger. Heavenly Earth Pine Tree's eyes were filled with fear and despair. It was too late for him to dodge. He could only let out a scream before he was completely engulfed by the lightning and turned into a pile of ashes. Gua Lily's heart skipped a beat. She trembled as if she had lost her parents. The last bolt of lightning that killed Heavenly Earth Pine Tree was as thick as a python and as fast as a wild dragon. It was a few hundred meters away. It was like the lightning that Thor shot out in Hollywood movies. She couldn't believe it. Brahma. Gua Lily looked at Brahma in a daze. After all, he was Wang Chongyan's disciple. She hoped that he could protect her and escape. Unexpectedly, Brahma didn't dare to resist at all. He knelt on the ground and kowtowed as if he was pounding garlic. He sobbed and said, "Disciple Brahma is wholeheartedly convinced. Please spare my lowly life, Master Kong." He was only an inner strength cultivator. If he fought with Jiang Tian again, it would be no different from showing off in front of an expert. Could it be that he's a god? Tang Jialin was dumbstruck. She muttered to herself with a lifeless gaze. Not to mention Jiang Tian, even Meng Kong's physical body that could shake a small car and condense a large crocodile was inconceivable to her. He was like a superhero in a Hollywood movie. When she saw Jiang Tian controlling lightning and throwing it, she felt even more inconceivable. She only felt that he was like a Buddha or a god in myths. As for Zhao Wuji, his intestines were green with regret. Lingering fear filled him as he trembled uncontrollably. What the hell was he doing? He actually fought with Jiang Tian for a woman and even wanted to cripple him. Wasn't this courting death? Guolili, how should we settle this debt between us? Jiang Tian looked at Guolili and put away the thunder meteorite wood. This was something he obtained from Shinong school and refined into a thunder-type artifact. Could be used multiple times and was quite handy. I'm willing to use money to buy my life. An unprecedented sense of danger arose in Guolili's heart. She was so scared that her delicate body went limp. She staggered back as if she saw a demon god. Now in her eyes, Jiang Tian was really too terrifying. She was afraid that the entire Guo family wouldn't be able to stop him. Do you think I'll care about a mere amount of money? Jiang Tian smiled disdainfully and said indifferently, "That day in the valley, I warned you that if you dare to be disrespectful to me again, I'll annihilate your entire Guo family. Do you think I'm joking?" Guolili was so scared that she took a few steps back. She forced herself to calm down and said, "Master Kong, it's better to squash enmity than keep it alive. Master Kong may be powerful, but my Guo family's assets are hundreds of billions. We can do whatever we want in Singapore. We're on good terms with Master Wang Chongyan of the Singapore Club. We're not to be trifled with. Even if you're not afraid, what about your family, lovers and friends? You dare to threaten me? Do you want to die?" Jiang Tian's face darkened and he flicked his finger. A silver lightning snake coiled around his fingers like an obedient kitten. Seeing this, Guolili was so scared that she knelt on the ground with a thud. Her delicate body trembled violently and tears fell like rain. She said in a trembling voice, "Master Kong, I'm not threatening you at all. I'm just stating the facts." Suddenly she had an idea. She hugged Jiang Tian's legs and rubbed her full breasts against Jiang Tian's calf. She raised her tear-stained face and put on a pitiful expression. She tried to use a gentle attack and pleaded, "Jiang Tian, as long as you don't kill me, I'm willing to be your woman. I'll listen to you and treat you gently. When the time comes, you'll be in control of the Guo family in Nanyang. Isn't that great?" The Guo family. She's Guolili from the Guo family in Nanyang. She came here to invest some time ago. Suddenly Tang Jialin exclaimed. Her beautiful eyes widened and her face was filled with disbelief. Her full breasts rose and fell violently. The Guo family in Nanyang. She heard that they were worth hundreds of billions and had a powerful background. Now the daughter of the Guo family was going to be Jiang Tian's wife. Jiang Tian is too lucky, isn't he? Zhao Yuanji also came to his senses. He could not believe it and was filled with envy, jealousy and hatred. Originally he had captured Tang Jialin's heart and was rather proud of himself. He thought that he had won over Jiang Tian. Now he realized that this woman had such a powerful background. Compared to Guolili, Tang Jialin was instantly overshadowed. It was like a chicken meeting a phoenix. "You vulgar women are so ugly. You always like to seduce others with your looks. How ridiculous." Jiang Tian kicked her away and said mockingly, "Why don't you take a piss and look at yourself in the mirror? Do you deserve to be my woman? You don't even deserve to be my slave or maid." Jiang Tian, Guolili was instantly embarrassed. Her face was flushed red, but when she thought about it carefully, she realized that it was true. With Jiang Tian's power, he was probably on par with Wang Chongyan. She was indeed not worthy. In the Chevrolet, Zhao Xueqing noticed that Shin Mange's face was red and she was sweating. He could not help but ask with concern, "Mange, are you okay?" I'm fine. Shin Mange smiled awkwardly. She could not help but think of what Jiang Tian said in Mount Galuo City. Her heart was filled with bitterness. Jiang Tian pondered for a moment and suddenly said, "You've provoked me time and time again. 100 deaths are not enough to atone for your sins. I can spare your life, but I can't let you go. Chapter 149. Master Kong, please speak. Guolili saw a ray of hope and was instantly like a drowning person grabbing onto a straw. Her face was filled with excitement. How about this? My father has been attracting investments recently and needs political achievements. Get Nanyang's Guo family to invest 10 billion here. Zhang Tian said indifferently. Okay, no problem. Guolili thought for a moment and agreed. With her ability, it was a little difficult to move the Guo family's investment of 10 billion, but it was not impossible if she worked hard. Also, you Guolili still owe me 10 billion. Prepare it, I'll go get it at any time. Zhang Tian said leisurely. 10 billion, Zhang Tian, do you know what 10 billion means? Guolili was instantly a little frantic. It was true that the Guo family was rich, but most of it was hotels, real estate, ships, mines and other fixed assets. Their liquid capital was only 10 billion. This is the price of 2 lives. Other than your life, there's also your grandfather's. Zhang Tian smiled faintly and took out a medicinal pill. If you agree, this medicinal pill can help your grandfather extend his lifespan by 10 years. Really? Guolili did not dare to believe it. If it was calculated like this, it was actually quite worth it. After all, they went to Shinong school to ask for medicine for her grandfather. And in the end, they had once offered a sky-high price of 5 billion. However, what the other party needed was great medicine and ancient treasures, not cash. Both parties did not come to an agreement. She took a deep breath and said, if this medicinal pill is effective, I can agree. However, I don't have so much cash, I can write an IOU to you first. Speaking up to hear, a crafty look flashed across her eyes. And take the medicinal pill and prepare the contract tomorrow. Also, the investment is settled as soon as possible. Zhang Tian threw a concentrated vital essence pill to Guolili as if throwing away trash. Then he casually shot out a fireball talisman and burned Meng Kong's corpse and bloodstains into ashes. Yes. I'll prepare everything. Guolili stood up and walked down the mountain, accompanied by Brahma. Eldest miss, isn't 10 billion a little expensive? Also, do you really want to invest? Asked Fan Tian with a frown as he recovered from the shock and fear after walking a long distance and getting into the MPV. There's no problem with the investment. Investing in Wuxia's mainland has always been the family's established strategy. Guolili's eyes flashed with craftiness as she snorted. But does he have the ability to take away the 10 billion? It's just an empty check. With Wang Zhongyan in charge of Singapore, I'm afraid he won't even dare to ask for it. What they didn't know was that Zhang Tian was standing on the top of the mountain, looking down at the leaving MPV and snorting coldly. You want to go back on your word? What a joke. In this world, the person who can renege on his debt to me, Kong Teichu, has yet to appear. These people are always arrogant and unscrupulous because they have 1 or 2 experts backing them up. Little did they know that I have already reached the mid-stage of qi refining. I can even kill a peak transcendent state grandmaster. When the time comes, I'll kill that meddlesome Wang Chongyan and take control of the Guo family and the entire Xing continent. Aren't you going to leave? Zhang Tian looked away and saw Zhao Wuji and Tang Jialin walking toward him, trembling in fear. Zhang Tian, I apologize to you. I was just joking with you. Please don't kill me. Zhao Wuji's legs were as weak as noodles. He wanted nothing more than to kneel down before Zhang Tian. That's enough, Yunji. We grew up together. Don't take it to heart. Zhang Tian smiled. After Zhang Tian came back, his personality had become much more peaceful. He was a man who could distinguish between kindness and hatred. He no longer killed the innocent. Zhao Wuji was not a good person, but he was not evil either. He and Zhang Tian were not mortal enemies. As long as he didn't keep buzzing around him like a fly, Qin Fan would let him go. What was the point of killing an ant like him? Zhang Tian, I am a man of my words. You saved me. I am willing to be your woman. Tang Jialin said firmly. Fuck. Zhao Yuanji felt like he was being cheated on, but he thought it was only natural. He quickly said, that's right, Zhang Tian. If you are interested, let Jialin be with you. With a timid look in his eyes, he smiled embarrassedly and said, don't despise her. Actually, nothing happened between us. We didn't even hold hands. That's right, Zhang Tian. I'm still a virgin. I have always kept it for you. Tang Jialin immediately hugged Jiang Tian's arm and rubbed her full chest against him. She said with a pitiful look, Jiang Tian, you took my first kiss. Don't forget our past relationship. She looked at Jiang Tian with admiration. Jiang Tian, I know you are not an ordinary person. I don't ask for any status. I can be a concubine or a bed-warming maid. Don't be like this. Jiang Tian jumped back in fright. He saw Zhou Xian looking at him mockingly in the carriage. He suddenly felt a headache and said, Tang Jialin, please stay away from me. I have no feelings for you. Jiang Tian, how can you refuse a girl's deep feelings for you? I really like you. Tang Jialin hugged Jiang Tian's arm and stomped her feet. Do you want me to die? I will die in front of you. With that, she walked toward the edge of the cliff. Don't bother me, okay? Jiang Tian was extremely helpless and annoyed. He waved his hand and erased Tang Jialin's memory with his divine sense. This girl was also a blabbermouth. Otherwise, how could there be such a funny thing as him losing his virginity to her? He might as well erase her memory so that she wouldn't talk nonsense. Tang Jialin's face was dull and her eyes were absent-minded for a moment. The next moment she looked at Jiang Tian in fear and trembled. She said to Zhao Wuji, Wuji, let's go quickly. Although her memory was erased, she was still subconsciously afraid of Jiang Tian. Let's go quickly. She doesn't remember anything. Don't tell anyone about what happened today. Jiang Tian waved his hand at Zhao Wuji, who was at a loss. Jiang Tian, don't worry. Zhao Wuji also reached a new height. He nodded and smiled. From now on you are my grandfather. As a grandson, how can I talk about my grandfather's matters? In this regard, Jiang Tian could only shake his head and smile bitterly. After solving this matter, it was already 2 o'clock in the morning. Jiang Tian couldn't wait and asked Shen Mange to stay in a nearby hotel. He took Zhao Xian back to his hometown without stopping. The county's residence was built in the 1990s. The walls of the brick and concrete structure were covered with tacky red porcelain pieces. Many of them had already peeled off. It had been in disrepair for a long time and the street lights were dim. It looked quite decayed. In fact, many of the county's leaders had bought a big house in a high-end building outside. However, Jiang Zhixing cherished his reputation and lived a simple life. He still lived in a small house with an area of 80 square meters. At this moment, the small chandelier in the living room sprinkled a bright yellow light that covered the coffee table, sofa, and other old furniture. It looked very warm and beautiful. Jiang Zhixing, who was always optimistic, looked worried and sighed. Wanqing, it's very troublesome this time. I received news that the Municipal Commission for Discipline Inspection suspects that there's a problem with the seedlings purchased by the garden. They said that there's a problem with the cooperation with the Provincial Academy of Agricultural Sciences. They might investigate me. Let them investigate, Zhang Wanqing said in a huff. Academician Yen of the Provincial Academy of Agricultural Sciences originally thought that the soil here wasn't suitable, so he didn't want to build the experimental base here. It was you who gave face to your old classmate and begged for it. Her face was cold as she coldly said, at that time, it was unanimously approved by the Standing Committee of the County Committee. Secretary Junlin was full of praise for you and praised you as a meritorious person. Now that there's a problem, he blames you and pushes all the blame to you while he himself is clean. Jiang Zhixing sighed and fell into silence for a long time before he asked, what about your factory? The first trial has already been decided. Zhang Wanqing, who had always been strong, couldn't bear it anymore. Tears rolled down her cheeks. These people are simply ruthless and ruthless. This factory is our life's work. She was heartbroken and blamed herself. She covered her face and suppressed her crying. It's all my fault. I was too careless. I didn't even investigate that Tiandan Pharmaceutical is actually a company related to the Sun family. It's clearly a fire pit, yet I still jumped into it. Wanqing, you have to be strong and don't blame yourself. Jiang Zhixing hugged his wife in his arms and patted her shoulder. You signed that contract for the development of the Medicine King Group. Besides, this attack wasn't aimed at you alone, but at the entire Jiang family. Jiang Zhixing's face was firm as he said, but I believe that justice and justice must exist. We will definitely get through this difficult time and reinvigorate ourselves. Hubby, thank you. Thank you for supporting my work. Zhang Wanqing was moved. What are you thanking me for? We've been husband and wife for so long. Don't say such childish words. Jiang Zhixing smiled gently and scratched her nose. You're not old at all. In my eyes you're always so handsome. Zhang Wanqing smiled and couldn't help but think of the good times when they were studying together at Yenjing University. Her heart was full of charm and gentleness. By the way, I have an idea. Jiang Zhixing hugged his wife's shoulder and comforted her for a while. Suddenly he said seriously, Jiang Tian came back this time. Can you persuade him and Qing'er to go abroad? How can I do that? If I go abroad I might not see him even once in a few years. Won't I miss him to death? Zhang Wanqing suddenly refused. Wanqing, I keep feeling that something is wrong. A storm is coming. Jiang Zhixing sighed and said with a deep gaze, it'll be fine if we get through this difficult time. If we can't drag Tian'er down. Hearing this, Zhang Wanqing calmed down. She couldn't help but feel sad again. With tears in her eyes, she nodded and said in a trembling voice, I understand. Pay attention to your words. This kid is a stubborn donkey. If he knows that the Jiang family is in danger, I'm afraid he won't be willing to leave. Jiang Zhixing said gently. When Jiang Tian rushed back to his hometown, Jiang Zhixing and his wife had already calmed down and concealed their emotions well. Jiang Zhixing was sitting on the old sofa, reading a book called Development Economics by Yang Shaokai, while Zhang Wanqing was watching the TV series Golden Wedding. Dad, Mom. I'm unfilial. Looking at his thin father with gray hair and a worried face, Jiang Tian could no longer control the surging emotions in his heart. He knelt on the ground with tears streaming down his face. Chapter 150. At that moment, countless images appeared in his mind. When he was a child, his father clumsily cooked and almost set the kitchen on fire. He raised him all by himself. When he was a teenager, he got into trouble in school and his father sighed helplessly. He raised his hand high and gently put it down. Also, after he beat up that young master from Beijing, his father put down his dignity and humbly apologized to him. Kid, it's not a holiday. Why are you kneeling? Seeing this, Zhang Wanqing quickly helped Jiang Tian up. It's good that you know how to work hard. Jiang Zhixing was also slightly moved. It seemed that Jiang Tian must have thought a lot during his time in Linzhou and matured a little. Did you drink tonight? Here, have some soup. Zhang Wanqing quickly went to the kitchen to get the hangover soup. The hangover soup was created by his mother. It was steaming beef brisket, onions, tomatoes and potatoes. It was sprinkled with chopped green onions. It warmed the stomach and was very comfortable. Drinking the hangover soup, Jiang Tian was touched. His eyes were wet again. This was the taste that he had missed for 10,000 years. Qing'er, how do you take care of your skin? Why is it better than a year ago? Zhao Xueqing didn't drink that night. She only drank 2 mouthfuls of soup before being pulled aside by Zhang Wanqing. Zhang Wanqing liked Zhao Xueqing from the bottom of her heart. She didn't look like she was looking at her daughter-in-law at all. Instead, she looked like she was looking at her own daughter. After drinking the soup, Jiang Tian let Zhao Xueqing wash up and rest. Then he went to the study room with Jiang Zhixing to chat. Zhang Wanqing originally wanted to talk to Jiang Tian about going abroad, but the first thing that Jiang Tian said was, Dad, I already know everything. Dad, Mom, I already know the situation at home. Don't worry, I will solve everything. Huh? You already know? Zhang Wanqing was dumbfounded. Jiang Zhixing sighed and said, I'm afraid it was Zhen Shuai and Tan Guangxiu, those 2 brats who told him. Zhang Wanqing became worried the next moment. Jiang Tian, don't be impulsive. The other party's legal procedures are very complete. If you hit someone or something, I'm afraid you'll have to bear legal responsibility. I understand. I will use my own way to solve it. There will definitely be no problem. After saying that, Jiang Tian went to bed, which confused Jiang Zhixing and his wife. I'm afraid this kid is just bragging. This problem is so complicated, how can he solve it? Zhang Wanqing shook her head and smiled bitterly. No one knew a son better than his mother. Although Jiang Tian's nature was not bad, his aptitude and ability were ordinary. Even the old man was helpless in this predicament, not to mention Jiang Tian, a young lad. Anyway, he knows how to worry about his family now. This is also a progress. Jiang Zhixing revealed a gratified smile. The next day while Jiang Tian was resting, a phone call woke Jiang Tian up. It was actually from Zhao Wuji. What's the matter? Jiang Tian asked calmly. Something happened to the county's gardens. Many seedlings died. Thousands of mu of land. The initial investment is all gone. Everyone is suspecting that there's a problem with the feng shui. Zhao Wuji said, this matter involves Uncle Jiang. The city commission for discipline inspection suspects that Uncle Jiang accepted bribes from the Provincial Agricultural Research Institute and got the problematic seedlings. They're preparing to investigate him. Come and pick me up. We'll be there right away. Jiang Tian's heart skipped a beat and he quickly said. Jiang Tian remembered. In his previous life, it was precisely because of the problem with the seedlings in the gardens that the Commission for Discipline Inspection intervened to investigate his father. My dad was a clean man and never accepted any gifts. However, the academician from the Provincial Agricultural Research Institute was my dad's classmate. He gave my dad a carton of cigarettes that contained 50,000 RMB. My dad didn't know about it, so he accepted it. However, the Commission for Discipline Inspection did not care whether he knew about it or not. They arrested his father just because of the 50,000 yuan. Thinking of this, Jiang Tian quickly got out of bed and found Jiang Zhixing, who was eating. Dad, did you accept a carton of cigarettes from Uncle Yan Jianfan? Yes. Jiang Zhixing said carelessly. We were old classmates in university and have been friends for decades. What's wrong with taking a carton of cigarettes from him? He even took mine. Dad, there's something wrong with that carton of cigarettes. Jiang Tian scanned the cabinet with his divine sense and found the carton of cigarettes. Then he quickly tore it apart. Why is there money in there? Did old Yen give it to you? Zhang Wanqing exclaimed. That's not right. We were the ones who asked old Yen for help with the garden project. Why would he give you money? I'm afraid old Yen doesn't know about it either. Jiang Zhixing frowned. Many farmers and seedlings ask old Yen for help. I'm afraid they gave it to him. When I was in his office, he took it out of the cabinet and gave it to me. He had been in the system for many years and knew the stakes. He broke out in cold sweat. Fortunately, little Tian found it in time. Otherwise, if something happened in the future, it would be hard to explain. I'll ask my secretary to send it to him immediately. With that, Jiang Zhixing picked up the carton of cigarettes and left. Not long after Jiang Zhixing left, Zhao Wuji arrived with a few gifts. He nodded and bowed. Auntie, I knew Jiang Tian was back, so I came to see him. Wuji, you're a rare guest. You don't have to take the gifts. It's good that you're here. Zhang Wanqing was surprised, but she still said happily. The secretary of the county committee, Zhao Junlin, had always been at odds with her husband. Especially after the garden project incident, he disliked Jiang Zhixing even more. Zhao Wuji was even more so. He was a local tycoon with a big business. Because his father was a high-ranking official, he was arrogant. Even when he met the couple, he usually ignored them. It's fine, Auntie. It's not anything valuable. Just accept it. I'm here to ask Jiang Tian to help me with something. Zhao Wuji put down the gifts and rubbed his hands. Jiang Tian, let's go. Let's go. Jiang Tian walked away. This is too strange. Zhang Wanqing was puzzled as she looked at the backs of the two people leaving. How did her son suddenly find the problem with the carton of cigarettes? It was packaged properly and no one could tell. And why did it seem like Zhao Wuji respected and even feared her son? This was too strange. On the way, Jiang Tian had a rough idea of what was going on based on his memories from his previous life and Zhao Wuji's explanation. The Ancient Rhyme Garden Center was a project jointly promoted by the county government and the Provincial Institute of Agricultural Sciences. The county government led the Finance Bureau and State-Owned Assets Supervision and Administration Commission to invest 100 million to set up an agricultural company. The Provincial Institute of Agricultural Sciences provided the seeds and technology, and the local farmers provided the land and labor. The main purpose of the project was to cultivate precious flowers and high-end bonsai. The Ancient Rhyme Garden Center was only a few thousand acres of land, but it had become the pillar of the county's industry. It was also the county government's greatest achievement in recent years. But recently all the seedlings and bonsai had withered and died of diseases. The losses were severe, and the gardeners suspected that there was a problem with the seedlings. They held up banners and went to the county government to ask for an explanation. Some even went to Jinling and Beijing to ask for an explanation. The county government invited the experts from the Provincial Institute of Agricultural Sciences to solve the problem. After testing, they found no problems with the soil, water, ventilation, pests, and diseases. Because of this matter, the leaders of the county were as anxious as ants on a hot pan. They were completely flustered. Someone suggested that the feng shui might have been damaged and that was why the seedlings died. So the county government invited many feng shui experts to take a look. After all, Zhao Wuji was the son of the county party secretary. He knew that this was related to his father's official position, so he had been paying close attention. When he saw Jiang Tian last night, he thought that Jiang Tian should be the same kind of person. So he pulled Jiang Tian over. "Oh, that's it? Don't worry, I will solve the problem." After hearing what Zhao Wuji said, Jiang Tian's face was calm. He closed his eyes and rested. Zhao Wuji was confident in Jiang Tian, so he didn't say anything else. The car sped all the way to a forest in the southern suburbs of the county. The ancient Rhyme Garden Center was already crowded with people. There were cars parked outside the gate. Inside the garden, many government officials, agriculture experts, and a few feng shui experts were gathered together. They were pointing and talking. "Dad, I brought the expert to you." Zhao Wuji excitedly pulled Jiang Tian to a man standing in the middle and said excitedly, "Nonsense, is this a place where you should be? We are working on the spot." Zhao Junlin was reading the report from the agriculture experts. When he saw Zhao Wuji, he said angrily, "Dad, I am not here to play. I am here to help you with your feng shui." Jiang Tian is a feng shui expert. Zhao Wuji was reprimanded until he shrunk his head. His face was full of fear, but he still smiled. "Jiang Tian, is Jiang Tian the feng shui master you were talking about?" Only now did Zhao Junlin glance at Jiang Tian, and he couldn't help being greatly disappointed. He berated, "What are you messing around for? Get out." Last night his son came back and said that he met an expert who could control lightning and block a Mercedes-Benz with his body. Did you hear that? Was that something a normal person would say? He must have drunk too much. He didn't have much hope in the beginning. However, when he saw that his son's so-called expert was Jiang Tian, he was furious. He had watched Jiang Tian grow up, so he knew Jiang Tian very well. This brat had been fighting since he was young, skipping classes and getting into puppy love. He was as useless as his bastard son. He was simply a useless idiot. When it came to causing trouble for their parents, the two of them were the same. They were the two scourges of the county. Zhao Wuji was anxious when he saw that his father didn't care about Jiang Tian. "You think you are so great just because you are the county party secretary? If you annoy Jiang Tian, he will kill you with a bolt of lightning." Jiang Tian pulled Zhao Wuji and said softly, "It's fine. Let's just watch." After walking a few steps, Jiang Tian suddenly said calmly, "Did you notice that the temperature here is a few degrees lower than other places? It really is. Look, some places are frozen." Other than Zhao Wuji, no one paid attention to Jiang Tian. Zhao Wuji found it strange. In Xianxia County, the temperature was relatively high in winter. Moreover, it was not yet winter. There were plastic sheds, so why would some of the ground be frozen? At that moment, an old man in a Taoist robe holding a compass suddenly said loudly, "I understand. This place is called Yin Convergence Land." Chapter 151. Master Su Hui, what do you mean by Yin Convergence? Everyone immediately surrounded the old man and asked curiously, "Look at this place. There's a deep lake in the north, an old well in the south, a mountain in the east where the purple qi doesn't come, and a Huai forest in the west where the Yin qi gathers. This is the standard Yin convergence." Master Su had a kind face, white hair, and a youthful complexion. He had the demeanor of an expert. He pointed and said calmly, "And now it's Ding Haiyan. He's in charge of Yin. With the fusion of heaven and earth, it's natural for Yin qi to erupt and frost qi to gather." Zhao Junlin rubbed his hands and asked anxiously, "Master Su Hui, do you have a solution? If I can solve such a small problem, I wouldn't be called a master." Master Su Hui smiled confidently and said, "I will set up an array later to bring in the yang qi and make the 4 seasons as warm as spring. Then the ancient charm garden will be restored." Really? Hearing this, Zhao Junlin and the others were overjoyed. Master Su Hui started to talk about feng shui array such as acupoint star, shaking dragon, barrier, branches, situation, qi and so on. The terms he spoke were obscure and difficult to understand, yet it just so happened to cause Zhao Junlin and the others to be shocked and intoxicated as they listened. That is what Master Su said reasonable. In the crowd, a beautiful woman in her 20s pulled a middle-aged man and asked. She was wearing a round neck sweater and casual pants with a white windbreaker. Her plump breasts were pushed up and down by the tight sweater. Her face was as white as jade and her eyelashes were long. She was wearing a pair of rimless glasses on her nose. She exuded an air of elegance. The middle-aged man was Yen Jianfan, the vice president of the Provincial Academy of Agricultural Sciences. He was a botanist and an academician who enjoyed a special allowance from the Government Administration Council. He was a Changjiang scholar and had countless disciples. The one who asked the question was his daughter, Yen Di, who was also a PhD student at the Provincial Academy of Agricultural Sciences. Different professions are like different mountains. I don't understand what he said, but feng shui is not simply superstition. A trace of contemplation appeared on Yen Jianfan's face as he solemnly said, the so-called feng shui can be understood as the choice and creation of the environment, reflecting the interaction between man and nature. There are struggles and compromises, and it deeply reflects the ancient idea of the unity of man and nature. The ancient traditional feng shui of our country has a deep connection with the hot topic of development and environment. In many aspects, it also coincides with the environmental science of Western modern architecture. It is reasonable and scientific. The group of doctoral and master's students stared at him without blinking. They pricked up their ears, not wanting to miss a single word. Yen Jianfan could be said to be a prominent figure in the country's agriculture and forestry field. Every word of his contained extremely profound academic thoughts, which were greatly beneficial to their studies and research. America's Golden Gate Bridge is known as the Suicide Bridge. Ever since it was built, more than 230 people have committed suicide by jumping into the river. In the past 10 years there have been more than 50 cases. Why? Yen Jianfan first threw out a question and then said, first of all, the view there is very wide. People standing on it have a sense of powerlessness and forget about the world. And the bridge is suspended in the air. The steel structure makes people feel a slight tremor. It makes people unconsciously feel empty and unstable under their feet. Psychologically, they will also feel helpless. If a person has negative emotions such as loss, depression, anxiety, and so on, it is difficult to be relieved. The environment gives people a psychological hint that as long as they jump, everything will be free. So, the environment will affect people's psychology, and then affect people's behavior, leading to different results and fates. Yendi's wise eyes flickered and she suddenly understood. Originally, she didn't think much of Master Su Hui, but now she couldn't help but be convinced. It's the same for animals and plants. Feng shui is a stable environment and then it has an impact on them. Yen Jianfan nodded approvingly. Feng shui is the same as traditional Chinese medicine. It is an empirical science. It has been accumulated for thousands of years and has its own uniqueness. Master Su Hui is an important figure in the southern sect's feng shui field. He has solved many difficult problems. If it weren't for him this time, our project would have really been ruined. After listening to her father's words, Yen Di couldn't help but respect Master Su Hui even more. Her eyes shone with admiration. First, fill up the ancient well in the north. At this time, Su Hui had finished his demonstration and waved his hand. A hook machine was already on standby. At this moment, it immediately drove to the side of the ancient well and began to dig and fill it. Master Su changed the feng shui personally. This time the problem of the ancient garden is solved. As long as these seedlings and bonsai come to life, all the problems will be solved. Where are the firecrackers? Secretary, let's set off the firecrackers. Zhao Junlin and the other county leaders were very excited and happy. Their faces were full of excitement. Stop. Su Hui is just spouting nonsense. Right at this moment, a cold shout suddenly sounded out. Everyone jumped in fright and turned their heads in unison. They saw a young man standing on a green stone with his hands behind his back, looking at Su Hui with disdain. Why are you still here? When Zhao Junlin saw that it was Jiang Tian who spoke, he couldn't help but be furious. He pointed at Zhao Wuji and scolded, "Bastard, hurry up and take him out of here. Don't you know who is here? Do you have the right to speak?" Zhao Wuji was in a dilemma and felt wronged. In the end he straightened his neck and said defiantly, "Dad, he really is a spellcaster. Can't you trust me just this once?" "Sigh, Secretary Zhao, don't worry. Why lower yourself to the same level as a young man?" Master Su Hui advised Zhao Junlin. Then he frowned at Jiang Tian and asked, "Little brother, what do you mean by that? Your demonstration is wrong from the beginning to the end. If you continue to act recklessly, not only will you not improve the feng shui, but you will also turn this garden into a dead land where not even a blade of grass can grow." Jiang Tian said calmly. "I'm wrong?" Hearing that, Su Hui couldn't believe it. He was so angry that his nose was crooked. He sneered and said, "How can I be wrong about such a simple question? How do you know about my background?" "Lingnan's feng shui master, Taoist master Hong Yi, is my master. I have also received guidance from Senior Wei Xiaofeng 3 times. In 2001, Tianlong Corporation was building an office building. Accidents happened frequently. I was the one who called the wind and summoned the rain and changed the destiny. Everything was safe and sound. In 2002, an evil spirit appeared in Jiqing Entertainment's director Zhao's family. The whole family was seriously ill. I used the plum blossom divination to shake the acupoints and force the evil spirit away, allowing director Zhao's family to recover. In 2005, I once helped Bai Chou Fei change the feng shui to seek luck and avoid disaster." Su Hui gave many examples, all of which were major events that caused huge waves in the world of feng shui. Master Su Hui is really a godly person. Who does this kid think he is? How dare he provoke Master Su Hui? Everyone present respected him even more. Their eyes were filled with reverence, and they were even more disdainful and contemptuous of Jiang Tian. "Have you read the ancient Jinga of geography? Do you know the Lurin theory of fate? Do you know what the 5 essences of green bag is? Do you know the 52nd floor of the compass?" Su Hui asked in a loud voice. He took a step forward and asked a few questions. He had already come to the center of the field. He looked straight at Jiang Tian and asked aggressively, "At such a young age, I'm afraid you haven't even read the Book of Changes. You dare to talk nonsense here and question this master. You don't know the immensity of heaven and earth." "Puchi." Yan Di looked at Jiang Tian for a long time. At this time she suddenly laughed out. She covered her mouth and said with a smile, "Dad, isn't this the kid from Uncle Zhang's family? When he was in the 2nd year of high school, he was the last in the class and asked me to make up lessons for him. But, humph." At this point 2 blushes appeared on her pretty face, and a trace of disdain flashed through her sparkling beautiful eyes. "But what, senior sister?" A junior student who was a graduate student next to her asked curiously. "But he peeked at me when I was bathing. My mother found out and kicked him out. In the end he had no one to make up lessons for him. He only scored around 300 in the college entrance exam and studied in a 3rd-tier university." Yan Di covered her mouth and said softly, "Your girl. How dare you say such things to others?" Yan Jianfan glared at his daughter, seemingly dissatisfied. "If he has the nerve to do it, why can't I say it?" Yan Di said angrily with puffed-up lips. "Damn, so he's a bad student. Even Mr. Yan can't solve such a complicated problem. What right does he have to interrupt?" Everyone was already dissatisfied with Jiang Tian's questioning of Master Su Hui. At this moment they couldn't help but look at Jiang Tian with disdain. "I haven't read what you said and I don't understand it." In the face of Su Hui's questioning and the ridicule of the crowd, Jiang Tian lowered his eyes, as if he was completely stumped. "Haha, look, you haven't even read the Book of Changes and you dare to pretend to be a feng shui master here?" Everyone's faces were filled with disdain and disdain. They looked at Jiang Tian as if they were looking at an idiot. This kid has always liked to be in the limelight since he was young. Does he not know that this is a place for him to be in the limelight? He's just looking for trouble. Yan Di said with disgust and disdain. "Jiang Tian, don't you know spells?" Zhao Wuji had thought that Jiang Tian was a spell master, but he was floored when he heard what Jiang Tian said. Could it be that it wasn't a spell but something else? Was it genetic mutation? Was it advanced technology? Was it superpowers? Was it Thor, Spider-Man or Iron Man? Zhao Wuji, you bastard, get him out of here. Don't embarrass me here. Zhao Junlin was so angry that his body trembled. He pointed at the door and roared angrily. The leaders of the municipal party committee were present. His son had brought such a useless piece of trash here. He had lost all his face. I don't understand what you're talking about and I don't want to. Jiang Tian's expression did not change at all in the face of the crowd's mockery. He said calmly, but your Shifu Hongyi is not even fit to carry my shoes. As for Wei Shuofeng, he was defeated by me. Arrogant bastard. Ignorant. Hearing this, Su Huizhen was so angry that her face turned red, her whole body trembled, and her lungs almost exploded. Reverend Hong Yi and old immortal Wei are both godlike figures in the heavens. How could they be mentioned by you? Su Hui leaped 3 feet high into the air, pointed at Jiang Tian and yelled furiously, "Bastard, get the hell out of here. Or I'll teach you a lesson. I'm not going to look at this feng shui anymore. Get out." The director of the municipal party committee office called a few policemen and began to chase Jiang Tian away. "If you continue to cause trouble here, we'll arrest you." "Sai, you guys just don't believe me. Fine, I'll show you what real spells are." Jiang Tian faintly smiled. He slowly raised his jade white hand and suddenly waved his fingers. Chapter 152. Rumble. The ground rumbled as if a millstone was grinding on ice. As Jiang Tian swept his finger across the ground shook violently as if there was a giant dragon rolling underground. What's going on? Is it an earthquake? Everyone's faces were filled with astonishment. They were dumbstruck and couldn't believe it. They looked at each other in dismay and looked around. From the deep pool in the north to the ancient well in the south, to the hillside in the east, to the locust tree forest in the west, there were a few earth slopes that connected together like a giant dragon. Instantly, a scorching heat rose up from the ground. Everyone felt a warm and even scorching sensation. Where did this slope come from? Seeing this, everyone was stunned. "Oh my God. Master, look." A disciple tugged at the stupefied Su Hui and pointed at the pots of bonsai and green plants. In an instant, all the plants and bonsai sprouted tender green buds and branches. Many of them even bloomed flowers, delicate and beautiful. Jiang Tian chanted a spell and raised his hand to set up an array. The ancient gardens of thousands of acres were connected with each other. The feng shui was harmonious and full of life. The flowers were surrounded by green leaves. Jiang Tian stood with his hands behind his back and smiled. It was as if a celestial emperor had arrived. Hundreds of flowers bloomed and all living beings congratulated him. Chanting a spell and raising his hand to set up an array. When Su Hui saw this, he muttered to himself in a daze, his entire body trembling uncontrollably, and his face was filled with shock. "Master, what do you mean by chanting a spell and raising his hand to set up an array?" A disciple finally recovered from the shock and asked in a hoarse voice. "Even if you are in the ethereal enlightenment realm and can connect with heaven and earth, you still need to chant a spell to have dharmic powers." Su Hui couldn't even stand properly. His lips trembled crazily as he said in a trembling voice, "But if you cultivate a Taoist body and generate divine thoughts, you will be able to realize the miracle of telepathy and all things in the world. With a single thought, all things in the world will feel it. With a single thought, you will be able to communicate with heaven and earth." Everyone was shocked. It was as if Jiang Tian was really a deity who had descended to the mortal world. Changing the terrain and feng shui was a mystery to everyone. However, Jiang Tian raised his hand and waved it, causing the earth dragon to surge and changing the feng shui. Thousands of trees were instantly restored to life, sprouting and flowers bloomed. This was beyond everyone's comprehension. "Master W, what did you say? He's a Tao body cultivator?" Some of the disciples were so shocked that their eyeballs almost fell out of their sockets. In ancient times, this was a real person, not just a fake title. To be able to become the state preceptor of a country, even the emperor had to respect him. Ever since the Ming dynasty, Wuxia had never had a master of Tao body cultivation. It was not an exaggeration to say that they were as rare as phoenix feathers and unicorn horns. They were simply like dragons in the sky. At this moment, Su Hui suddenly shuddered as he remembered something. He walked up to Jiang Tian and asked respectfully, Master Kong, are you from Jiangbei? You guessed right, it's me. Jiang Tian's expression was relaxed as he smiled faintly. It's really Master Kong. Su Hui was so shocked that his soul almost left his body. His knees went soft and he knelt on the ground with a thud. He kowtowed as if he was pounding garlic. Jiang, Grandmaster Jiang, this disciple did not know your face and offended you. Please punish him. Everyone was dumbfounded. What kind of person was Su Hui? He was the eldest disciple of Hong Yi, the enlightened cultivator, and was famous in the southern faction. He was the guest of honor of many dignitaries. Even the mayor of a multimillionaire had to treat him with respect. However, at this moment he knelt before Jiang Tian and begged for punishment from Jiang Tian. How dare you disrespect me? I won't kill you, but I will strip you of your cultivation. Jiang Tian's eyes turned cold. He raised his hand and made a grabbing motion on Su Hui's body. Suddenly, Su Hui looked as if he had aged 10 years. His originally plump cheeks quickly caved in and his teeth fell out. His originally bright eyes became cloudy as he slowly fell to the ground. Thank you, Master Kong, for sparing my life. Thank you. However, Su Hui was still kowtowing with a face full of gratitude. The Taoist body was almost equivalent to an immortal. He had offended an immortal. It was already a great fortune for him to be able to keep his life. Seeing this, everyone was even more frightened. They looked at Jiang Tian with eyes full of fear and dread. Su Hui was helped away by many mournful disciples. Jiang Tian did not stay. He put his hands behind his back and lazily walked away. Jiang, Master Kong, wait a moment. Seeing this, Zhao Junlin hurried over and pulled on Jiang Tian's sleeves. He smiled and said, You've solved this problem. You've done a great job. Let's get together with your dad tonight. Forget it, Secretary Zhao. I'm still very busy. Jiang Tian declined politely. Then he said meaningfully, Thank you for taking care of my father all these years. Hearing this, Zhao Junlin shuddered as if he had fallen into an ice cellar. He and Jiang Zhixing had always been on bad terms. He wanted to take advantage of this matter to the end. However, at this moment he did not dare. Jiang Tian was a godlike figure. He could control thousands of flowers and trees with a thought and take away people's vitality and cultivation. He could kill him as easily as killing a chicken. He hurriedly promised, Master Kong, I'm going to leave soon. Don't worry, I'll definitely recommend your father. I don't know about officialdom. You can do as you see fit. However, don't tell anyone about my ability, especially my father. Jiang Tian smiled faintly and walked towards the parking lot. Don't worry, no one will tell anyone. Zhao Junlin nodded heavily. He wanted to deal with this matter quietly. After all, it was not good for the officials to find a feng shui master to spread the news. Jiang Tian, wait. Jiang Tian and Zhao Wuji, who was jumping with excitement all the way, came to the parking lot. Yendi ran over with her slender and straight legs and shouted while gasping for breath. What's the matter? Jiang Tian turned his head and asked indifferently. Yendi's face was filled with respect and admiration as she said softly, I'm sorry about what happened just now. You didn't lie? Jiang Tian said calmly without any expression. Yendi's face stiffened as she lowered her head. Jiang Tian didn't seem to be too happy. He was simply keeping people 1,000 miles away. But in the end she was unwilling to give up such a rare opportunity. She mustered up her courage and bit her lower lip with her snow-white teeth. She smiled sweetly and said, I still have to stay here for 2 days. If you have time in the evening, I'll treat you to dinner and a movie, okay? You've also helped my father and the Provincial Academy of Agricultural Sciences by solving this problem. I have to thank you. Yendi was a female doctor. She even studied abroad and had a teaching position in the Jinling Agricultural Academy. Such a girl was very popular in the marriage market. She had always had a lot of suitors. Among them there was no lack of young talents like professors and scholars. But at this moment, when compared to Jiang Tian, she instantly felt that these people paled in comparison, and were not even worth a fart. Actually, I didn't want to help you. I wanted to help my father. After all, he's in charge of this project. Jiang Tian didn't even look at her. He got into the car, got Zhao Wuji to start the car and drove off. How could you reject me? Yendi was full of frustration and regret as she stomped her feet. Yendi, don't think about it. He's already married. Too late. Behind her, Yan Jianfan sighed. How could he be dissatisfied and regretful in his heart? Back then, Jiang Tian and his wife also looked for Yan Jianfan for Jiang Tian's marriage. After all, Yan Jianfan and Jiang Tian were classmates in university. Yan Di and Jiang Tian could be considered childhood sweethearts. But at that time, Jiang Tian was ignorant and incompetent. How could Yan Jianfan agree? However, he did not expect that in just a short 2 to 3 years, Jiang Tian would have learned such an extraordinary ability. Yan Jianfan couldn't help but think about what kind of status and glory he and his daughter would have had in the past. He's so young, but he's already married? Yan Di's delicate body trembled slightly. Her beautiful face became incomparably pale. Her heart was filled with frustration and despair. But the next moment she cheered up. So what? It's not bad to be his second wife. Anyway, I don't plan to get married. Humph, when you come to Jinling, I'll ask you out every day. She was originally studying in France, the capital of romance. She was more open-minded, so she immediately made up her mind. Yeah, with such a promising son, I'm afraid he can be promoted a few more times. The Jiang family has produced a dragon. We all underestimated him. Yan Jianfan shook his head with a complicated expression. He regretted his stupid decision back then. When he returned home that night, Jiang Tian saw that his father's face was full of joy. His mother, who rarely cooked, had made a table full of dishes. She even took out the old wine that his father had treasured for many years. Mom, what's wrong with you? It's not a holiday, why did you make such a big table of dishes? Jiang Tian pulled a chair over and sat down. He picked up a piece of sweet and sour pork ribs and started eating. Little monkey, you haven't even washed your hands. Zhang Wanqing tapped Jiang Tian's hand with her chopsticks and smiled. Great news. In the morning, some Master Kong from Jiangbei solved the problem of the ancient charm garden. In the afternoon, the Guo family from Nanyang contacted your father. They're investing 10 billion to build a shipyard in Xianxia County. This is the largest investment in Xianxia County's history. Even the municipal committee is alarmed. That's good news. Dad, Mom, aren't you going to thank that Master Kong? Zhao Xueqing smiled sweetly and glanced at Jiang Tian with her beautiful eyes, clearly saying, you did it, right? Why did you hide it from Mom and Dad? That Master Kong is an expert. I heard that even Lingnan's master Su knelt before him. How could we meet you? Jiang Tian opened the wine and poured a glass for Jiang Tian. Dad, let me. Jiang Tian couldn't stand it. He quickly took the bottle and poured wine for his father. He smiled. If you want to meet that Master Kong, I'll let you meet him every day. To be honest, I'm Master Kong. Hey, you bastard. You're not even fit to carry his shoes. Zhang Wanqing thought her son was joking. She said happily, however, this matter has been solved perfectly. With the huge investment from Nanyang's Guo family, your father might be promoted again this time and become a county magistrate. The municipal committee hasn't said anything yet. Don't tell anyone about this and make them laugh. Jiang Zhixing instructed with a serious expression, but the happy smile at the corners of his eyes could not be concealed. Hearing this, Jiang Tian smiled. His father had always been conscientious and hardworking. He had a good reputation and had contributed greatly to attracting investors. With Zhao Junlin's recommendation, he would definitely become a county magistrate or secretary in this time's election. In the next moment, Jiang Tian's eyes narrowed slightly to hide the sharp coldness and crazy killing intent. Next, it was time to deal with the Xianxia pharmaceutical factory. He had to find Sun Hao as soon as possible. Chapter 153. 2 days passed peacefully. On this day, the news came that Tianduan Pharmaceuticals was coming to forcibly seize the land of the pharmaceutical factory. Zhang Wanqing got up in the morning and was about to go to work. Jiang Tian smiled and said, Mom, I'll go with you. What are you going to do? Stay at home and accompany Qing. Zhang Wanqing rebuked, but her face was a little uneasy. She hurried out with her handbag. The first trial was over. The court had issued a notice that Tianduan Pharmaceuticals was coming to collect the land today. Something big might happen. Zhang Wanqing didn't want Jiang Tian to participate in this matter. Wuji, come and send me to my mom's factory. Jiang Tian dialed Zhao Wuji's phone and said lightly. Qixiao Pharmaceutical Factory Director's Office. Tian Duan Pharmaceutical CO Ma Yumu sat on the sofa with his legs crossed. Behind him stood several big men in black with long knives and steel pipes. Sister Zhang, this is the court's notice of enforcement. Get out of here and give us the land. He looked fierce, smoking a cigarette and looking at Zhang Wanqing as if he was looking at a dead person. This guy was about 40 or 50 years old. His snow-white shirt was spotless, his leather shoes were shiny, and his hair was combed back into a fluffy swept-back hairstyle. He was dressed like a successful businessman. He was the executor who cheated Zhang Wanqing. On the surface he was the CEO of Tian Duan Pharmaceuticals, but in fact he was just Sun Hao's dog. Mayumu, we have filed a second lawsuit. This is not the final trial. The notice of enforcement has been invalidated. If you dare to act recklessly, I'll call the police. Although a pack of wolves surrounded her, Zhang Wanqing didn't lose the demeanor of a strong woman. She slammed the table and shouted. Sister Zhang, just admit it. Do you think you can beat me with money and a lawsuit? Funny. Mayumu smiled disdainfully and waved his hand nonchalantly. Ask Mr. Zhang to leave and smash all the computers and bottles in the office. Several big men swarmed and were about to take action. At this moment the door was pushed open. A tall figure appeared and said lightly, Get out. Who are you? Mayumu used to be Sun Hao's lackey and had mingled in the society. He instantly felt a terrifying bloodthirsty aura emanating from Jiang Tian's body. He couldn't help but be shocked and ask involuntarily. You have no right to know who my boss is. Behind Jiang Tian, Zhao Wuji sneered. Go back and tell your master that tonight, my boss will be waiting for him at the Fingy restaurant. Ever since he saw Jiang Tian's prowess, he immediately regarded himself as one of Jiang Tian's lackeys, using his connections to intimidate others. Zhao Wuji, do you think you have the qualifications to talk to young master son? Mayumu lived in Jinling. He had seen a lot of rich second generations. He didn't care about the son of a division leader. In his opinion, these people were just country bumpkins. You don't want to scram? If you want to die, I'll fulfill your wish. Jiang Tian sneered. His voice was as cold as ice. Hearing this, Mayumu immediately flew into a rage. He threw the half-smoked cigarette on the ground and crushed it with his foot. He slammed the table and stood up. With a thunderous roar he shouted, Brat, you're quite arrogant. Fine, fine, fine. Today I'll let you know why flowers are so red. Then he pointed at Jiang Tian and Zhao Wuji and said, Break these two's legs. Following his order, several big and burly men immediately rushed toward Jiang Tian and Zhao Wuji while howling like wolves. Little Tian, get out. Zhang Wanqing was dumbfounded. Her son didn't even have the strength to truss a chicken. If he was surrounded and beaten by this group of fierce men, wouldn't he be beaten to death? Andy, don't worry. Just wait for a good show. Zhao Wuji immediately took a step back and pulled Zhang Wanqing out of the circle. He looked at this group of fierce men with schadenfreude and said with a smile, They don't know what's good for them. The leader of the big men was very fierce. He threw a punch toward Jiang Tian's chest, bringing with it the sound of the wind. Humph, brat. If you don't end up in the hospital after this punch, I'll change my surname to yours. At this time Mayumu coldly snorted and sat down again. He crossed his legs as if Jiang Tian was already a dead man. The Clear Sky Association under Sun Hao was one of the largest associations in Jinling. It had over 1,000 members. And the one who attacked was the Clear Sky Association's double flower red stick, DeLong. The so-called red stick was a gold medal fighter selected from the numerous gang members in each association. Only those whose strength was recognized as valiant in their association could be called the red stick. In slang it was called 426. It meant that 4 times 26 plus 4 was exactly equal to 108, which corresponded with the number of Liangshan's 108 generals. And according to legend, Liangshan's hero Wu Song held a red stick, so the gold medal fighter was called the red stick and became a tradition. And the double flower red stick was recognized as the most valiant among those red sticks. In other words, it was the gold medal fighter selected by the gold medal fighters. Every year during the Spring Festival, the associations in Jinling City would follow the old rules and carry out some traditional activities, such as lion and dragon dances, paying respects to Guan Yu and so on. There was also a martial arts competition between each association's red stick. And the winner was the double flower red stick. This double flower red stick was not only the best at fighting in the association, but also recognized as the strongest by all the associations. It was equivalent to being selected from Jinling's tens of thousands of fierce men. His strength could be seen at a glance. Ma Yumu once saw with his own eyes that De Long punched out and broke the rope of a sandbag. He also once tested that this punch had the strength of 500 kilograms. Those who were hit by it would either die or be crippled. Therefore even Sun Hao valued De Long very much, even more than Ma Yumu. It was also because the pharmaceutical factory was a big fat piece of meat that he graciously allowed De Long to accompany him to deal with this matter. Thinking of this, the corners of Ma Yumu's mouth curled up in disdain. He lit a cigarette and his face was calm as if Jiang Tian was already a dead man. But in the next moment Ma Yumu's mouth suddenly opened wide. The cigarette fell on his leg and burned his skin, but he didn't even notice it. His heart was set off stormy waves and he was shocked to the core. When De Long's fist smashed down, Jiang Tian just activated his qi and a golden light shield enveloped his body. But De Long was like being bombarded by a cannonball. He flew backward with blood spurting out of his mouth. The pure wood wooden door was broken into pieces and he fell to the ground miserably. Everyone looked back and saw that he was vomiting blood non-stop. The blood also contained fragments of his internal organs. His body was broken in countless places and his skin was lacerated. Blood flowed out and he was almost a bloody man. Time seemed to stop at this moment. Everyone who was charging forward suddenly stiffened. Their eyes were filled with fear and they stood there in a daze. A bloody mist filled the air, filling everyone's mouths and noses and stimulating their nerves. The angry roars and shouts seemed to have been absorbed by an invisible sponge, leaving not a drop behind. The entire place was so silent that even a pin drop could be heard. He's a demon. After a full 10 seconds one of the guys finally let out a scream. His voice was trembling. Ma Yumu was so scared that his knees went soft. He knelt on the ground with a thud and said trembling, "Please spare my life. I was only following orders. Everything was Sun Hao's idea. Pass on a message to Sun Hao. Come see me at the Fingy restaurant tonight." Jiang Tian said calmly. Yes. I'll definitely pass on the message. As long as you don't kill me, I'm willing to be a dog. Ma Yumu kept kowtowing, tears streaming down his face. He was so scared that he was about to wet himself. De Long hadn't even touched him. He'd been sent flying several meters away by an inexplicable barrier of light. Ma Yumu really didn't know how to explain this strangeness. He could only interpret Jiang Tian as a supernatural existence like a ghost or god. How could he afford to provoke such a terrifying existence? He could die at any moment. Take that brat away and scram. Jiang Tian waved his hand with a cold expression. He couldn't be bothered to look at them again. He wanted to deal with Sun Hao. These ants weren't even worth mentioning. Yes, we'll leave now. We'll leave now. Ma Yumu and the others were so scared that they pissed their pants. They scrambled to escape. Jiang Tian, how did you do that just now? Zhang Wanqing asked incredulously. She only recovered from her shock after a full minute had passed. The Jiang Tian in front of her felt very unfamiliar. Was this her son, who always failed physical education exams and had no strength to even truss a chicken? Mom, don't worry. I'm no longer the same person. I've said before that the Medicine King group won't fall. I'll protect the Jiang family and the Medicine King group in the future. Jiang Tian held his mother's trembling hand and said gently but firmly. Zhang Wanqing nodded absent-mindedly. Her son didn't elaborate and she didn't ask. She finally revealed a kind and gratified smile. Her eyes were slightly red as she said, "Mom knows that my son is the best in the world. Yeah, after all, I've inherited your and my dad's excellent genes." Jiang Tian laughed. "You're such a smooth talker." Zhang Wanqing rolled her eyes at Jiang Tian. She suddenly felt worried and frowned. "Are you really going to meet Sun Hao tonight? You have the ability now, but don't make too much of a fuss. Everything has to be legal and reasonable." "Don't worry, I'll have a good talk with them." Jiang Tian concealed the murderous intent in his eyes and nodded. Jinling, top floor of Dynasty Real Estate Chairman's office. Zhang Wanqing and Zhao Wuji are really bold. How dare they touch my people? They must be tired of living. Sun Hao, who was wearing a Versace suit, stood in front of the floor-to-ceiling window. His face was calm as he overlooked the dreary Qinhuai River, Confucius Temple, Wui Alley and other scenic spots. Standing here he could overlook half of Jinling's bustling scenery. It always gave him a sense of lofty ambition. He swore to become the wealthiest and most powerful man in Jinling. He wanted to become a peerless powerhouse. In the past few years his business had been booming and he was invincible in the business world. He seemed to be on the verge of reaching his goal. But today he had hit a big nail on the head. He had hit a hard bone and even lost a tooth. It seems that you're a newborn calf that's not afraid of a tiger. You don't know my strength. I only wanted to take the land, but now you've forced me to kill you. Sun Hao's eyes were cold. The muscles on his face twitched a few times. He gritted his teeth and said coldly, "In Jinling no one dares to touch my Sun Hao's people. With just you I'll make sure you die without a burial ground in minutes." Chapter 154. As the first successor of Jinling City's Sun family, Sun Hao was born with a golden spoon in his mouth. However, he wasn't a traditional hedonistic young master. His skills and ability were also very strong. He could be considered a young talent. After graduating from America's Wharton School of Business, he took over the family business and immediately launched a series of dazzling capital operations. He conquered the entire Su province, defeated many real estate giants, and set off a series of hair-raising battles. This caused Dynasty Real Estate's scale to double in 3 years. Many of his business operations became classic examples in the fields of public relations, marketing, management, and finance. Many business professors and successful entrepreneurs of the older generation sighed in amazement. Many high school students were studying, learning, and comprehending. Moreover, behind the scenes he was also the leader of Jinling City's largest club, Clear Sky Association. Regarding this, even Yangqing City's young master Bai Choufei had high praise for him. Sun Hao is simply living a life of a master. He knows the most advanced Western financial operations but is also very local. He can integrate with Wuxia's national conditions. Director Sun Yangqing City's young master Tang Xiaozi is here. A tall and beautiful female secretary knocked on the door and walked in. She whispered in Sun Hao's ear. Hearing this, Sun Hao's face changed for the first time. A hint of surprise appeared on his face as he said, "Good, good, good. Have all the company's middle management and higher management staff go to the airport to welcome him. Has the airport prepared flowers and red carpet banners?" "According to your orders, it has already been prepared." The female secretary's voice was soft but her face was filled with shock. Sun Hao was a first-tier young master in Jinling City. He could summon the wind and summon the rain. How could he be so respectful to this young master Tang? How could she know that Yangqing City was the bridgehead of the reform and opening up, an important economic city? The development of Jinling City was too far away from Yangqing City. Moreover, in terms of status and assets, Sun Hao was far from Tang Xiaozi. If it weren't for the fact that Tang Xiaozi had a good relationship with Sun Hao when he was studying in the US, he wouldn't have cooperated with him. "Sun Hao, don't go to the airport to pick me up. I'm already here." Suddenly, a young man pushed open the door and walked in. He only brought one follower with him. His face was filled with joy and there was no arrogance to speak of. "Young Master Tang, why are you here alone? I have to pick you up at the airport. You're too slow. You're one of the 4 young masters of Yang City." Sun Hao, who was arrogant and despotic outside, was like a grandson when he saw Tang Xiaozi, nodding and bowing. "Let's not talk about this anymore." Tang Xiaozi was wearing a long robe and soft cloth shoes. His long hair was cut into a buzz cut, and there was a string of Buddhist beads around his neck. He was dressed like a Buddhist monk. "There are no more 4 young masters of Yangqing," he said with a slightly depressed and bitter voice. "Why do you say that, young Master Tang?" Sun Hao asked suspiciously. The 4 young masters of Yangqing were gone, and Tang Xiaozi was dressed so strangely. He looked prematurely aged. How was this the awe-inspiring young master Tang Xiaozi? After both parties were seated, The young and beautiful female secretary made tea for Tang Xiaozi and Tang Xiaozi in front of the kung fu tea set. She served them with a kneeling posture and said softly, "Young Master Tang, please have some tea." She had just secretly pulled down her shirt and unbuttoned a button, revealing her fair skin. Previously, Sun Hao had reminded her that this was a rare opportunity. Once she became young Master Tang's woman, she would be a phoenix flying up the branch. However, she never expected that no matter how she tried to flirt in front of Tang Xiaozi, the latter was like an old monk in meditation. He didn't even look at her. Did he not like women? The female secretary sighed in disappointment. Her heart was filled with worry and confusion. "Young Master Tang, I've left this secretary for you. She's still a virgin and I've never dared to touch her before. Her father is also a leader in the city, and she's the daughter of a decent family. She's different from those young models and celebrities," Sun Hao said with a fawning smile. The female secretary also pretended to be shy and lowered her head slightly. Her slender jade-like hands trembled slightly and spilled some tea at the perfect moment. Her acting was very good. Tang Xiaozi knitted his brows and sighed. "Women are a source of calamity. It's best to avoid them." Seeing that Tang Xiaozi wasn't interested, Sun Hao immediately changed the topic and smiled. "Oh right, why didn't young Master Tai and young Master Bai come this time? I miss them a lot." "Don't mention it. My legs were broken by Master Kong and I haven't recovered yet." Tang Xiaozi smiled bitterly and shook his head. "Young Master Tang, I've heard a thing or two about this matter. Is that Master Kong that powerful?" Sun Hao immediately showed his righteous indignation and patted his chest. "If you trust me, leave this matter to me. I'll hire a few gunmen from overseas and shoot him to death." "Sun Hao, watch your words." Tang Xiaozi was so scared that he almost jumped out of his chair. His face was covered in cold sweat and his eyes were filled with fear. He said in a trembling voice, "That Master Kong is like a celestial dragon in the sky. He's not afraid of bullets, can control lightning, can walk on water and can hurt people from a distance. Don't get me into trouble." As he spoke, he held the string of Buddha beads, put his palms together, closed his eyes and prayed with a pious expression. "Thank you Bodhisattva and all the gods for your blessings. I'll never meet Kong Teichu again." Ever since he was taught a lesson by Jiang Tian in Lizhou, Tang Xiaozi had been suffering. He was anxious and paranoid all day long, afraid that Jiang Tian would kill him if he was displeased. Later he heard from someone that worshipping Buddha was useful, so he spent 300 million to build a temple and built a large Buddha statue. He also kowtowed alone for 2,000 steps until his knees bled. He kowtowed 3 times and 9 times in front of the Buddha, praying that he would use 20 years of his life in exchange for not meeting Jiang Taichu again in this life. Needless to say, he never met Jiang Tian again in the next few months. He was safe and sound. Amazing, too amazing. Therefore he started to eat vegetarian food and worship Buddha. He had to chant and pray every day before he could fall asleep. Is it really that amazing? Young Master Tang was so scared that he started chanting Buddha. Sun Hao thought it was a bit funny. At that moment Ma Yimu knocked on the door and entered. He respectfully said, "Young Master Sun, the Fengi restaurant is ready." Sun Hao nodded. Seeing that he wasn't leaving, he frowned and said, "There's nothing else for you to do. Why aren't you leaving?" Ma Yimu wanted to say something but hesitated. In the end he said in a trembling voice, "Zhao Wuji's friend is very strange. He seems to be a martial arts expert. Young Master Sun, you should shake hands with him and give up on that piece of land." "What martial arts expert? Nonsense. Can he block a flintlock?" Sun Hao smiled disdainfully and said, "Besides, do you know how many experts young Master Tang has with him?" Before Tang Xiaozi could say anything, the attendant next to him said with a gloomy face, "My name is Dong Su. People call me Iron Fist Dong Su. I'm at the peak of inner strength." As he spoke, he smiled faintly and slammed his hand on the marble coffee table. A clear palm print appeared. "Expert. Expert." Sun Hao was shocked beyond words. He clapped and cheered. After a round of flattery, he said seriously, "Brother Dong, the piece of land I want to take is a bit troublesome. There's a ruthless person who even injured my double flower red staff. This is good. With a great deity like you overseeing it, I can rest assured. There aren't any martial arts experts in the vast Jinling." Dong Su smiled reservedly and took a sip of tea. Sun Hao was greatly relieved. He then turned to Tang Xiaozi and respectfully said, "Young Master Tang, since this is your first time in Jinling, I must show you some appreciation. Tonight, I'll take this opportunity to do my part as a host and enjoy myself at the Fingyi restaurant." The Fingyi restaurant was well known in Jinling. It was a place where people ate, drank, and played. It was very high class. "No, I'm already a Buddhist. I don't get close to women. You can take Dong Su to have some fun." Tang Xiaozi glanced at him indifferently and said leisurely, "Besides, I can't stand to see fighting and killing. I'll just wait outside while you do your thing." Hearing this, Sun Hao was completely stunned. He didn't dare to believe it. Was this still the unrestrained, arrogant, and despotic leader of Yangqing's 4 young masters? He's actually a Buddhist? This change was too great. It was as if he's a completely different person. Hearing this, the female secretary mustered up her courage and said, "Young Master Tang, I have a younger sister called Tang Jialin. She's a loyal fan of yours and has always worshipped you. He wants to get to know you. Can I bring her over tonight?" Tang Jialin had begged her for this matter many times. If it was before, Tang Jiro definitely wouldn't have dared to ask. But now that young Master Tang had become a Buddhist, his temperament was gentle. Perhaps he would agree? As expected, Tang Xiaozi's next words made Tang Jiro's heart feel sweeter than honey. "That's fine too." Tang Xiaozi had a compassionate look on his face as he said leisurely, "In life the road is long and full of difficulties and obstacles. Who doesn't have a difficult time? It's good to get to know more friends." He clasped his hands together and closed his eyes. With a pious expression he chanted, "I've seen the universe is big, but I still pity the grass and trees. In this world of strong people you and I are like ants and dust. We have to love each other and live through this short and difficult life hand in hand. Bring her over tonight." "Thank you, young Master Tang. Thank you, young Master Tang." Tang Jiro's mouth was about to split open. As expected of a young master from Yangqing. He's different from a small place like Jinling. Life is long and full of difficulties and obstacles. I've seen the universe is big, but I still pity the grass and trees. Look, these words are so philosophical. You must have experienced the storms of life to be able to understand them. In the evening, a few luxury cars roared like wild beasts as they sped along the streets of Jinling. When the cars on the road saw the license plates of these cars, they retreated as if they had seen tigers and wolves. These cars were all imported luxury cars that were worth more than 1,000,000 yuan. All of them had police license plates and even the provincial government's pass. However, there was an Audi A3 that was worth less than 300,000 yuan at the back. It seemed a little out of place. "Linlin, you have to be careful this time. The other party is a big shot. It's a rare opportunity for both of us." Tang Jiro drove the car and instructed her sister earnestly. "Don't worry, sister. I won't let you down." Tang Jialin held a makeup box and carefully drew her eyebrows in front of a small mirror. Chapter 155. If she were to walk on the street, her current appearance would definitely make people's eyes light up and turn their heads to look at her. Her jade-white skin was like jade, sparkling and translucent. Her red lips were painted with pink lipstick like a flaming rose. Her hairstyle was meticulously styled into fashionable wavy curls, making her look even more charming and charming. She wore a high-waisted strapless dress that accentuated her slender waist and ample bosom. Her jade-like shoulders and chest were even more alluring and soul-stirring. She graduated from a third-rate university and relied on her father's connections to become an ordinary clerk in Dynasty Real Estate. Her income was also average. If she could leave a good impression on young Master Tang and let him guide her, she would be able to enter the real upper class and even marry into a rich family. An ugly duckling would become a white swan. At that time she would be able to afford any luxury car. Her Audi A3 would immediately be replaced by an A8. Although Tang Jialin's job was average, she was born into a family of officials and was good at socializing. Thus she was full of confidence. "If young Master Tang likes you, then you and Zhao Wuji?" Tang Jiaro asked. "If compared to these big shots, he's nothing. He's just a piece of trash. We've already broken up," Tang Jialin said disdainfully. She was also puzzled. She didn't know why, but ever since she went to Mount Wu to block Jiang Tian, She felt that Zhao Wuji didn't seem to have any charm. They broke up the next night. Skid. The son of a small cadre family can't be compared to young Master Tang. Moreover, he seems to be on the same side as Zhang Wanqing to oppose young Master Sunday. He's really reckless. Tang Jiaro smiled with relief. Soon, the motorcade arrived at the Fingy restaurant in the western suburbs of Jinling and entered a small courtyard. After the group got out of the car, Mayumu said, "Young Master Sun, that brat is waiting upstairs. We've already cleared the place in advance. Alright, you guys accompany young Master Tang. I'll go and meet him first," Sun Hao said in a deep voice with a sinister look. He then waved his hand and led a group of people to the second floor in a grandiose manner. At this moment he couldn't hold back his anger and made up his mind to kill that brat no matter what. A burst of cold wind blew a burly man's suit. Tang Jialin cried out involuntarily. He has a pistol at his waist. Lower your voice. Tang Jiaro rolled her eyes at her sister and said, "Of course everyone has a gun. Clear Sky Association has never lacked guns. Won't the police do anything about it?" Tang Jialin's face turned pale and she trembled. What's there to be afraid of? The Sun family has deep connections in the police force. What's the big deal about killing someone? Tang Jiaro said proudly as she looked at Sun Hao's disappearing figure with reverence. This is real power. Compared to them, I feel like an idiot. Tang Jialin was dumbfounded, as if she had just opened the door to a new world. Her heart was filled with envy, shock, and shame. Young Master Tang is much stronger than young Master Sunday. You didn't see how servile Sun Hao was when he saw young Master Tang, Tang Jiaro said to her sister in a low voice, reminding her to seize the opportunity. Young Master Tang, can I sit in your car? So cold outside. After Tang Jiaro heard this, she lowered her body and knocked on the car window. She said in a soft voice. Her lapel slid down at an ingenious angle, unobtrusively revealing a fair and seductive curve. Sure. Tang Xiaoza calmly glanced at her, then opened the door for her like a gentleman. Young Master Tang, my name is Tang Jialin and I've always admired you. Tang Jiaro's snow-white arm moved and stretched out her slender hand. Her bright and beautiful eyes rippled as she said with a face full of joy. Nice to meet you, Miss Tang, but I'm a Buddhist and I don't get close to women. Let's not shake hands. Tang Xiaoza bitterly smiled and gently shook his head. After all, he was once the #1 young master in Yangqing City. How could he not know about Tang Jiaro's little abacus? However, he now firmly believed in the principle of femme fatale. Back then he only glanced at Zhao Xueqing in the crowd and caused a disaster. He had always remembered this lesson in his heart. Women were too scary. What if she was Kong Teichu's woman? Tang Jialin felt a little awkward, but she squeezed out a smile and acted coquettishly. Young Master Tang, let's shake hands. It's just normal etiquette. I'm not afraid, so what are you afraid of? Amit Ba. Tang Xiaoza chanted and held the prayer beads in his hand. He solemnly said, Miss Tang, you don't know what it means to lose the big picture for a small gain. If you were in my shoes, you would also be careful. As he spoke, Jiang Tian's figure flashed in his mind and he couldn't help but shiver. Then he opened the door without any reluctance and walked out. Throughout the entire process he didn't even look at Tang Jiaro. It was as if he was avoiding her. He twirled his Buddhist prayer beads and looked at the koi pond in the courtyard with great interest. He smiled contentedly. He smiled and said, how can a woman be as cute as these koi? The lotus leaves are scattered and filled with bleak beauty. The koi fish swim freely. It's peaceful and carefree. Young Master Tang, so you're a Buddhist? I'm also a Buddhist. Tang Jialin didn't give up. She followed him out of the car and took out a jade Buddha statue from her lapel. In fact, she had bought the jade Buddha statue on the way here under her sister's advice. It was easier to get closer to each other. Well, not bad. Tang Xiaoza's face was filled with joy. He said, don't fight or snatch. Only by having a pure heart and few desires can you live a long life. Come work in my company. I'm lacking an assistant. He sighed as if he had been enlightened. It's good to believe in Buddhism. People who believe in Buddhism have great wisdom. Sometimes people have to believe in fate. Young Master Tang, you're willing to work for me. Thank you. Tang Jialin was jumping with joy. Even if Tang Xiaoza wasn't interested in her, she could still get to know many rich people and young masters if she followed him. Tang Jiro was also beaming with joy as if she had won a million lottery. If you work in Lingnan, you must remember that there's one person you can't offend. Tang Xiaozi said with a trembling voice, that person is Kong Teichu. He's the emperor of Lingnan. When I see him I have to call him grandpa. Yes. I'll remember young master Tang. Tang Jialin nodded like a chick pecking at rice. Tang Jiro asked, is Kong Teichu very powerful? Of course. He's like a god. Tang Xiaozi's face was filled with admiration and fear. Tang Jialin and her sister were confused as they listened to Tang Xiaozi's stories about walking on water, controlling lightning flying in the air, condensing qi into a weapon and injuring people from a distance. At this moment, a loud bang came from the second floor. The glass window shattered and the broken glass and wood flew up and down in the air like butterflies. Then a tall figure shot out like an arrow and landed on the ground. He said coldly, Sun Hao, go down and accept your death. Yang, Master Kong. Tang Xiaozi was horrified when he saw the face of the figure. With a crack he crushed the prayer beads in his hand. Young Master Sun, I've just found out that the guy who injured Daoang is Zhang Wanqing's son Jiang Tian. When Sun Hao went upstairs the leader of the thugs reported to him in a low voice. Fuck, it's him. He's just a good-for-nothing. How can he know martial arts? Ma Yumu must have failed and was afraid that I would punish him. That's why he lied and exaggerated his opponent's strength. Sun Hao shook his head in disdain. He felt that he had been too agitated today. He even brought a gunman with him. If he had known it was him he would have sent someone to tell him that he would be scared to death. He would have obediently knelt in front of him and begged for mercy. However, since he was already there, Sun Hao wanted to settle the matter as well. He pushed the door open and entered. Hey Jiang Tian, where's your expert? Come out quickly. I'll kill him. Sun Hao said impatiently when he saw that only Jiang Tian was there. The others also looked around. Don't look. There's no one else. It's just me. Jiang Tian smiled faintly. What are you joking about? You've got guts to beat up my men. Sun Hao looked at Jiang Tian as if he was looking at an idiot. He sneered and said, Jiang Tian, hurry up and kowtow. Sun Hao, Dino. Jiang Tian smiled faintly and said, I've been waiting for you for 10,000 years. You good for nothing. How dare you call me by my name? Sun Hao's face was full of disdain. He then pointed at Jiang Tian and shouted angrily, Do you want to die? I've been waiting for this moment for 10,000 years. Jiang Tian spoke again. His calm words landed in everyone's hearts. They were like rolling thunder shaking their hearts. 10,000 years. A whole 10,000 years of hatred. In the next moment, Jiang Tian suddenly stood up. At the same time, a strong aura suppressed the entire place. The whistling wind blew the chandelier, the landscape paintings on the wall, and the many decorations in the room. It also blew everyone out of the window. Sun Hao, go down and accept your death. As soon as he said that, Jiang Tian jumped out of the window. It's him. When he saw Jiang Tian clearly, Tang Xiaozi was horrified. He had once made a promise in front of the Buddha that he was willing to use 20 years of his life in exchange for not meeting Kong Teichu again in this life. However, today he still bumped into Kong Teichu's muzzle. Kong Teichu, the terrifying existence that could burn the sky with fire, control lightning, crush masters and kill immortals without leaving a trace. That was Tang Xiaozi's lifelong nightmare. Tang Xiaozi wanted to cry but had no tears. At this moment he wanted to find a hole to hide in and disappear from Jiang Tian's sight. He touched the Buddhist prayer beads around his neck. He even wanted to die. These Buddhist prayer beads were blessed by an eminent monk. That monk even said that as long as he wore the Buddhist prayer beads every day and prayed devoutly to Buddha, his wishes would come true. In order to not meet Kong Teichu, he did not dare to develop his business in Lingnan. Instead he moved to Su province to a place like Xianxia County where birds don't even shit. However, he did not expect that in a small place like Xianxia County, he would meet his nemesis again. Kong Teichu. Tang Jiro did not notice Tang Xiaozi's expression. She only saw Sun Hao fall from the stairs and then vomit while holding his chest. She could not help but feel anxious. She quickly went forward to support him. Boss, who is so ruthless? Suddenly she saw Jiang Tian. Her face was full of anger. She pointed at Jiang Tian's nose and scolded, Jiang Tian, are you crazy? Do you know who young Master Sun is? He's not someone you can mess with. Chapter 156. In response, Jiang Tian struck out with his palm without hesitation. Bang! Tang Jiaro was sent flying. Her soft chest caved in, her brain was splattered, and her face was covered in blood. She died on the spot. He wanted revenge. He wanted Sun Hao dead. Anyone who tried to stop him would have to die. This was the true nature of the Taichu Celestial Venerable. This was the ruthless and cruel means of the Taichu Celestial Venerable. Back then, when the Taichu Celestial Venerable was enraged, blood would flow for thousands of miles, and blood would flow for billions of light years. The number of people who died unjustly was like the sand in the Ganges River. So what if he killed 1 or 2 flies? It's the Jiang family's honor that young Master Sun wants your family's land. If you know what's good for you, you should obediently give it up. How dare you hit my sister? Are you crazy? Tang Jiaro didn't know that her sister was dead, and she didn't know the seriousness of the matter. She quickly stepped forward and pointed at Jiang Tian's nose as she shouted. So that land belongs to Master Kang's family. Sun Hao, you've killed me. Tang Xiaozi finally understood. He was so horrified that he wished he could buy a piece of tofu and kill himself. At that moment he really hated Sun Hao. He wished he could grind Sun Hao's bones and scatter his ashes to vent his hatred. I'm willing to use 20 years of my life in exchange for not meeting Kong Taichu in this life. But you of all people chose to provoke Jiang Taichu. Damn it, you even dragged me down with you. His heart was filled with remorse. He was even willing to use 20 years of his life in exchange for 10 days. No, 1 hour would be enough. Seeing Tang Jialin repeatedly being disrespectful to Jiang Tian, he immediately became anxious. Just now she was standing together with him and laughing. If Grandmaster Jiang mistakenly thought that he was the instigator, then he would really be dead. Flap. He leaped out like a ferocious tiger and slapped Tang Jialin in the face. Tang Jialin was sent flying and a clear handprint appeared on her face. Tang Jialin fell to the ground and covered her face. She was dumbfounded as she looked at Tang Xiaozi and asked in a trembling voice, "Young Master Tang, why did you hit me?" At this moment, Tang Xiaozi was too lazy to pay attention to him. He threw himself in front of Jiang Tian and knelt on the ground with a plop. "Master Kong, this is all a misunderstanding. I will sever all ties with Sun Hao and kill him for you." Dong Su instantly turned from an iron fist into a soft-bodied worm. He knelt on the ground and cried, "Master Kong, please understand. We're just here to be bystanders. We have no intention of becoming enemies with Master Kong. Do you need me to help you kill someone? I'm very good at this." Back then, when Jiang Tian was fighting Wei Shuofeng, he had also witnessed Jiang Tian's divine might at the Tide Hark Villa. This was an expert who could kill Mo Haoxiong and Wei Shuofeng with a flick of his finger. Even he himself wasn't enough to fill the gaps between Jiang Tian's teeth. What? Itchy's that Master Kong? Tang Jialin looked at Jiang Tian in disbelief. She couldn't connect this trashy Jiang Tian with the Master Kong that Tang Xiaozi had just mentioned. No need. I'll kill my own enemies myself. Jiang Tian sneered and stood with his hands behind his back. Sun Hao, on the other hand, still hadn't figured out the situation. He pulled Tang Xiaozi up and said, "Young Master Tang, why are you kneeling on him? Don't worry, I've brought gunmen. He'll be finished in a matter of minutes." "Scram, I don't know you." Tang Xiaozi kicked him away and ran out of the circle. He stood there trembling and said in horror, "You dare provoke Master Kong? You must be tired of living." At that moment, many gunmen had come from all directions and were pointing their guns at Jiang Tian. Seeing that all the gunmen had gathered, Sun Hao's confidence increased. He didn't think much about Tang Xiaozi's fear and uneasiness. He just thought that Tang Xiaozi had gone crazy from chanting Buddhist scriptures. He lit up a cigarette and spat out a mouthful of smoke in disdain. He looked at Jiang Tian with disdain and mocked, "Jiang Tian, you're just a useless piece of trash. You dare to be unreasonable with me just because you learned some martial arts? Today I'll let you have a taste of the power of firearms. Left and right, kill him." Following his order, bang bang bang, over 10 gunmen at the scene instantly pulled the trigger all the way to the end. The muzzles of the guns were filled with flames, and the sound of gunfire was deafening. The bullets were like rain as they poured toward Zhang Tian. Kid, after I kill you I'll chop you up and feed you to the dogs. Also your parents will die." Sun Hao's eyes were cold and smug. He grinned and muttered, "I only wanted to take the land, but you forced me to kill you. You're asking for it." He was not the only one who thought so. Everyone present had the same thought. In their opinion, Zhang Tian was dead meat. Who could withstand the power of bullets? He was not Superman, the Hulk, or Iron Man. However, what happened next left everyone dumbstruck. They were completely dumbfounded. When those lightning-fast bullets were still 1 meter away from Zhang Tian, it was as if they were immobilized by an immortal. Suddenly they were blocked by a faint golden light shield. All of them were stunned and suspended in the air, unable to move forward even an inch. At this moment Zhang Tian was enveloped by the bullets that were like stars. He was like a god of creation that controlled the myriad of worlds. How is this possible? Sun Hao's eyes were wide open. He felt a chill in his heart and screamed like a tomcat whose tail had been stepped on. The scene in front of him was unbelievable. Bullets are nothing to a transcendent level cultivator, not to mention that I am far more powerful than a grandmaster. Zhang Tian heaved a sigh and then waved his hand. Seeing this, the gunmen were scared out of their wits. Even as they were about to kneel and beg for mercy, a series of bullets flew out and pierced through the air. Puff, puff, puff. The bullets sank into the bodies of Ma Yumu and the other gunmen, creating bowl-sized wounds. Some of them even had their skulls shattered. Such power was not bullets but miniature bombs. In less than a second, all of Sun Hao's gunmen were lying on the ground. Only the horrified Sun Hao was left standing there, alone and helpless, in a mess in the wind. Bullets. Bullets. Can't kill him. Seeing this incredible scene, Sun Hao felt as if he had fallen into an ice cellar. His heart was in turmoil as he looked at Zhang Tian incredulously. "Grandmasters are like dragons," Tang Xiaozi exclaimed from the bottom of his heart. His face was full of shock as he murmured, "He is not a human being, he is a god." After all, he was a mortal and did not know much about Dharma spells and martial arts. When Zhang Tian fought with Wei Shuofeng, he was a few hundred meters away, so he could not see the battle clearly. Today, when he saw it with his own eyes, he finally realized how terrifying a Wu Dao master was. So he is Master Kong. He's like a god. Tang Jialin trembled all over. Her eyes were filled with fear as if she had seen a god. How could that bitch Zhang Wanqing give birth to such a demon? Sun Hao mumbled to himself. Although his voice was low, Zhang Tian still heard it. He immediately made his move. He waved his fingers and a sickle-shaped chi wave came out at lightning speed and severed one of Sun Hao's legs. The unbearable pain made Sun Hao scream like a pig being slaughtered. He rolled on the ground as blood gushed out from his wounds, leaving a trail of crimson on the ground. "How dare you insult the mother of Kong Teichu?" A hint of cruelty flashed through Zhang Tian's eyes. His fingers flicked as if he were playing a pipa. Chi blades as thin as cicadas' wings shot out and sliced off Sun Hao's flesh piece by piece. Every piece of flesh was so thin that it was translucent. Sun Hao screamed like a pig being slaughtered. Killing Sun Hao was not enough to appease Zhang Tian's anger. Zhang Tian wanted to torture him and let him die slowly. He was going to torture him mercilessly. Death by 1,000 cuts. Zhang Tian waved his hand 20 times and sliced off 1,231 times. "Zhang Tian, you are a demon. I will haunt you even if I become a ghost." At first, Sun Hao was still roaring angrily and cursing viciously. He knew that he was not going to live. Half an hour later, Sun Hao's flesh had been completely sliced off. His entire body was covered in blood as he lay on the ground, wriggling and struggling. "Grandpa Zhang, I'm convinced. I beg you to give me a quick death. Just kill me." Gradually, he began to beg desperately for a quick death so that he could be spared from torture. Kill me." But in the end he was in so much pain that he was in a daze. He could not even make a sound. At this time, Sun Hao's skin and flesh had been completely sliced off. Under the cold moonlight his white bones were exposed. It was a ghastly sight. Sun Hao finally could not bear the burden and breathed his last. His eyes were still wide open. They were filled with pain, shock and fear. It was as if he could not believe that he would die in such a miserable way. After doing all this, Jiang Tian threw out a fireball talisman and burned Sun Hao's body into ashes. Then Jiang Tian burned all the corpses with fireball talismans. A gust of wind blew, sweeping up all the dead leaves and ashes of the corpses into the air. Everything disappeared as if nothing had happened. After doing all this, Jiang Tian turned to look at Tang Xiaozi. Tang Xiaozi watched as Jiang Tian executed Sun Hao by 1,000 cuts, then raised his hand to drive out the fire and burn the corpses. He felt a chill in his heart. But suddenly he smelled a strong stench. He saw Tang Jialin and Tang Xiaozi trembling in fear, even peeing and shitting. Tang Xiaozi could not be bothered with them. He hurriedly knelt on the ground again and said in a trembling voice, "Master Kong, I didn't know that the person he wanted to deal with was you. None of this has anything to do with me." "Enough nonsense," Jiang Tian said indifferently. He scanned Tang Xiaozi's mind with his divine sense and knew that he had not participated in the operation against Xianxia Pharmaceutical Company. He also did not know that all this had to do with him. Otherwise, with Jiang Tian's decisive personality, he would have died a graveless death long ago. Yes, Master Kong, I won't say any more." Tang Xiaozi curled up like a quail and hurriedly covered his mouth, not even daring to breathe. Jiang Tian put his hands behind his back and asked leisurely, "Sun Hao wants to control the Medicine King Group's pharmaceutical company in Xianxia district. Can you help me settle this matter?" "No problem, leave everything to me. Including Sun Hao's death today, I can also give the Sun family a reasonable explanation," Tang Xiaozi hurriedly promised. Sun Hao had many enemies, including a few overseas. He could say that overseas killers had kidnapped them and had nothing to do with Master Kong. Kneel. Jiang Tian casually erased Tang Jialin's memory. Without even looking at Tang Xiaozi, he slowly walked out of the door with his hands behind his back. Chapter 157. In the Jiang family's room in the county headquarters. Jiang Zhixing and his wife were anxiously waiting for Jiang Tian's return. "Wanqing, you're too reckless. How could you let Jiang Tian interact with Sun Hao? Sun Hao is ruthless. Jiang Tian will definitely suffer." Jiang Zhixing was as anxious as an ant on a hot pan. He couldn't sit still and paced back and forth in the living room. "Yeah, I regret it too. At that time I saw that he could beat away those hooligans and thought that he could do it, but he hasn't come back yet. Was he kidnapped by Sun Hao?" Zhang Wanqing also regretted it, full of worry and fear. "I'll ask Zhen Shuai's father to help. So what if he can fight? Sun Hao has hundreds of people with guns." The more Jiang Zhixing thought about it, the more worried he became. He called the head of the county bureau and asked them to go take a look. "Yeah, I have to go take a look with the police." Zhang Wanqing hurriedly stood up. "Mom, Dad, don't worry. No one can hurt Jiang Tian. He'll be back soon." Seeing this, Zhao Xueqing gently smiled. She pressed Zhang Wanqing's shoulders and asked her to sit down. "Aya Qinga, why are you so careless?" Hearing her daughter-in-law's words, Zhang Wanqing was so worried that tears almost came out of her eyes. Who was Sun Hao? He was one of the top few young masters in Jinling. He was extremely powerful and had a powerful background. How could she let her son negotiate with him? It was also at this moment that the door was pushed open. Zhang Wanqing looked back and saw that Jiang Tian's hands and feet were intact. Only then did she relax. She said with ecstasy, "Little Tian, you're finally back. You scared me to death." Hearing his mother's words full of concern and worry, Jiang Tian's face showed a warm smile like the winter sun. This was a completely different person from the cold and cruel appearance he had when he was killing people. "Mom, don't worry. Sun Hao's matter has been taken care of." Jiang Tian smiled and sat down lazily. He picked up the kumquat on the table and began peeling it. "What? Taken care of?" Hearing Jiang Tian's words, Jiang Zhixing and his wife looked at each other in disbelief. Sun Hao had put in a lot of effort to get the land of the pharmaceutical factory. He was determined to get it. He had used all kinds of tricks and schemes. How could he give it up so easily? At this time, Zhang Wanqing's phone rang. It was a call from the Sun family's lawyer. After picking up the phone, the other party directly said that the Sun family had given up their creditors' rights to Xianxia Pharmaceutical Factory and no longer wanted that piece of land. They asked Zhang Wanqing to forgive them. Their attitude was very respectful and polite. It's really settled. After hanging up the phone, Zhang Wanqing couldn't believe it and couldn't come back to her senses for a long time. The problem that had been bothering him for months was solved just like that after his son went out. Jiang Tian, how did you solve it? You can't do anything illegal. Jiang Tian's face was a little serious. He was afraid that Jiang Tian would act recklessly. Oh, I have a friend in Yangqing who knows him and mediated between them. Jiang Tian said seriously. I also tried to reason with him. Anyway, don't worry. There definitely won't be any problems. This bastard will reason with you? Zhang Wanqing couldn't believe it. Her face was full of suspicion. Zhao Xueqing's clear and beautiful eyes blinked a few times. Jiang Tian disappeared for a few hours. After returning, he said that the problem had been solved. Sun Hao's group was probably either dead or injured. However, Zhao Xueqing also slowly understood Jiang Tian's style of doing things these days. She didn't think that Jiang Tian had done anything wrong. In this world there were many people who spoke of benevolence and morality, but behind their backs they were despicable and shameless. For example, Li Pingtao, Lu Wangfeng. For example, Sun Hao now. You talk to him about the law, he plays hooligan with you, you play hooligan with him, he talks to you about morality, you talk to him about morality, he talks to you about national conditions. Sun Hao relied on his power to bribe the authorities and seize Xianxia pharmaceutical factory. If Jiang Tian didn't make a move, Jiang Zhixing and his wife's lifetime of hard work would have been taken away by them. Against evil people like Sun Hao, using conventional methods was useless. The best way was to use violence and death to let them know that they were wrong. Little Tian, tell mom, how did you do it? Zhang Wanqing still wanted to ask Jiang Tian. Jiang Zhixing, who was beside her, smiled and said, all right, our son has already grown up. He naturally knows what he's doing. If he says it's solved, then it's solved. You don't have to care about these details. He knew that although Jiang Tian was ignorant and incompetent, he was very good at eating, drinking and having fun. As the saying goes, birds of a feather flock together. It was possible that Jiang Tian had made a few strong friends through these. Didn't Zhao Wuji and Jiang Tian get along well recently? Of course, in Jiang Zhixing's opinion, Jiang Tian wasn't doing anything good. If he wanted to succeed, he still had to rely on his own ability. However, everything had to be done step by step. Jiang Tian was rebellious. If he tried to persuade him now, it would have the opposite effect. After all, Jiang Tian being willing to care about family matters was already a huge improvement. All right, I'll listen to you too. Zhang Wanqing didn't pursue the matter any further. The stone in her heart was finally put down. Her heart was filled with joy and relief. Recently there had been one joyous event after another. This morning, Jiang Zhixing passed the inspection and received the notice of appointment. He was promoted to Xianxia County Magistrate. The problem with her factory was also solved. Suddenly, Zhang Wanqing grabbed her daughter-in-law's small hand. She squinted her eyes and smiled kindly. Qing'er, you've been married for almost a year. Your stomach. Why hasn't there been any movement? This. Zhao Xueqing's beautiful face was crimson red. Her eyes rippled with gentle waves and she was extremely shy. Previously, Jiang Tian was crazy and silly. He scolded and scolded her. The two of them didn't have a good relationship and had never slept together. When Jiang Tian recovered from his crazy illness, she would accept Jiang Tian again. However, Jiang Tian said that he wanted to become famous before. So these days, although the two of them acted intimately and even hugged and kissed, they still didn't break through the last line of defense. Mom, giving birth to a child isn't like giving birth to a piglet. Can this matter be rushed? Jiang Tian said with a smile as he ate an orange. Ahem, Jiang Zhixing coughed. His face was a bit embarrassed. He smiled and said, you three have a good chat. I'm going to prepare a speech for the county's committee meeting. You dropped the ball at the crucial moment. Zhang Wanqing raised her eyebrows and scolded, who's the one who talks about other families having grandchildren every day? Now you're running away. This kind of topic is more suitable for you two to talk about. Jiang Zhixing was also a person who was afraid of his wife. He smiled awkwardly and ran into the study. Zhang Wanqing pulled her daughter-in-law's hand and sat on the sofa. She said softly, Qing, I know that Jiang Tian was a good-for-nothing in the past. He bullied you a lot and made you suffer. If he dares to bully you again, tell me and I will skin him alive. Caressing her daughter-in-law's face, Zhang Wanqing replied, I know that you're a child with a hard life. You didn't have a mother since you were young, so you treated me as your mother. With me around, no one can bully you, not even that bastard Jiang Tian. Zhang Wanqing's words might be simple, but they were as gentle as a mother, which made Zhao Xueqing's heart melt. Mom, that's all in the past. Tears welled up in Zhao Xueqing's beautiful eyes as she said softly, he treats me very well now, very well. To be able to be his wife, to be able to be your daughter-in-law, is the blessing of 8 lifetimes. Since you're not blaming him, then hurry up and give birth to a child. Jiang Tian felt dizzy. His mother was jumping around too much. She immediately went back to the main topic. Zhang Wanqing earnestly said, Mom has been thinking a lot these days. The business world is dangerous and it's very torturous. How much can you achieve to be satisfied? It was still the happiest when the whole family was reunited and happily together. I know you're young, ambitious, and career-oriented, but you'll understand this sooner or later. When you're an advanced pregnant woman, it'll be too late to regret it if you want to have a child. Mom, it's not that I'm busy with my career and don't want to have a child. It's up to Jiang Tian. Zhao Xueqing looked at Jiang Tian reproachfully. She was clearly saying, look, it's all your fault for being reserved. How am I going to explain it now? Quietly watching the two of them chat, Jiang Tian's heart was filled with satisfaction and joy. Even when he dominated Lingnan and was admired by tens of thousands of people, Jiang Tian's heart had never wavered. However, at this moment, looking at this heartwarming scene, Jiang Tian felt unprecedentedly satisfied, grounded, and gratified. Hearing this, Jiang Tian interrupted, Mom, don't worry. We'll work hard as soon as possible and strive to. Afraid that her mother-in-law would bring up the matter of having a baby again, Zhao Xueqing hurriedly changed the topic. She said softly, Mom, Jiang Tian said that this year on Grandpa's birthday he'll return to the Jiang family and help you regain control of the Medicine King group. Jiang Tian had mentioned this to Qing'er more than once. His mother's power was seized by some people in the family because he had provoked the family in Yanjing. However, the Medicine King group was founded by his mother. It was her life's work. One could imagine the unwillingness and suffering in his mother's heart. Regain control of the Medicine King group. Hearing this, Zhang Wanqing's body trembled. Her face was full of shock. Then a layer of mist rose from her beautiful eyes. Jiang Tian, don't worry about this matter. I'm old and I've already seen through these things. After a full 3 seconds, Zhang Wanqing finally reacted. She pulled Jiang Tian's hand and comforted him gently. Mom, I've said that I'll help you regain control of the Medicine King group. Jiang Tian's tone was light but firm. Seeing that Jiang Tian was so confident, Zhang Wanqing was also moved for a moment. But soon Zhang Wanqing calmed down. A bitter and self-deprecating smile appeared on her face. She said softly, Sai Mom, why should we regain control of the Jiang family? Your uncle's family has power and influence and they have powerful backers behind them. They have already changed the management and no one will support us. Mom, don't worry. When the time comes, I'll make those stinky women worship you and beg you to be the helmsman of the Medicine King group. Once I show my trump card, they'll be scared to death. Jiang Tian smiled faintly and comforted her. In terms of background, he was already in charge of Lingnan and had cooperated with the military. This kind of powerful background was not something that his uncle and aunt could compare to. It was something that they couldn't even imagine. In terms of wealth, he could take the money of the big families in Lingnan at will. Moreover, the Guo family owed him 10 billion. The amount of money he could mobilize was in the tens of billions. It was enough to buy 10 Medicine King group. Jiang Tian didn't say one more thing. If they didn't submit, he would beat them until they did. Chapter 158. In the Jiang family, other than his parents and grandfather, no one else truly loved Jiang Tian. When Jiang Tian's family was in trouble, they instead wantonly bullied and suppressed them. It could be said that they were cold and heartless. Therefore, Jiang Tian did not have much affection for these so-called relatives. However, there was no need to tell his parents about these things. They might not believe him even if he told them. He might as well give them a surprise when the time came. Okay, then I'll wait for you to help me regain my power. Seeing Jiang Tian so confident, although Zhang Wanqing did not know what her son's trump card was and felt that it was impossible, she was very gratified, satisfied and happy. At least her son was sensible. This was his filial piety. For the next few days, Jiang Tian brought Qing'er to accompany his parents. They played in Xianxia County for a few days and enjoyed the joy of a family reunion. Yiziwei also rushed over from Jinling and met Jiang Tian once. The two of them had a small gathering at a coffee shop. The 2 billion was borrowed from Jiang Tian. Although it was inconvenient for Yiziwei to explain, everyone should at least understand that she was the one who borrowed it. However, many people in the Jiang family strongly advocated that the funds be used to upgrade the headquarters. As for Qixia Pharmaceutical Company, they did not get a single cent. Even when Qixia Pharmaceutical Company was in danger of being seized by Sun Hao, they watched from the sidelines and did not care about the overall interests. Yiziwei also had some complaints about this. Now they are afraid that Mom will regain her power in Qixia County and take back the power of the chairman of the group. Jiang Tian did not take this to heart. Let them do whatever they want. In the end, the Medicine King group would definitely belong to his mother. After playing for a few days, Jiang Tian also planned to say goodbye to his parents. However, an uninvited guest came on this day. Junior Tang Xiaozi greets Master Kong. Tang Xiaozi knelt on the ground and kowtowed to Jiang Tian. Fortunately, his parents had gone to work. Otherwise, they would have been shocked to see this. You've handled the Sun family's matters well. Have a seat. Jiang Tian ate the kumquat and smacked his lips in satisfaction. Master Kong doesn't want me to kneel anymore. He actually wants me to sit down. Isn't this an improvement? Tang Xiaozi was overjoyed. It seemed like he had to pray more in the future. Praying to Buddha was useful. In the future, I'll just be a Buddhist pretty boy. Thank you, Master Kong, for granting me a seat. Tang Xiaozi's legs were closed and his hands were pressed on his knees. Half of his butt was hanging in the air. His eyes were timid and he didn't dare to sit still. He was so reserved that he was like a little white rabbit that had encountered a Tyrannosaurus Rex. Why are you here? Jiang Tian didn't beat around the bush and went straight to the point. Master Kong, I'm here to show my loyalty. I want to be your lackey. Tang Xiaozi abruptly stood up and said with a face full of excitement. After he finished speaking, he looked at Jiang Tian with a pitiful expression, wishing he could kneel down and beg. Oh, you're just an ordinary person. What can you do for me? Jiang Tian yawned dispiritedly. In Lingnan, he mainly controlled Taoist Master Hong Yi and the other spell masters. He could command them as if they were his own limbs. However, he couldn't be bothered to pay attention to a rich young master like Tang Xiaozi. These people were different from Yi Gufeng Dragon Fifth and Zhou Zhenghao. Jiang Tian had helped the Jiangbei people resolve a crisis. They were loyal and devoted. However, these people were only afraid of Jiang Tian. They were not loyal enough. Tang Xiaozi's face was filled with disappointment when he heard this. He had guessed the beginning but not the ending. He didn't expect that he wasn't even qualified to be Master Kang's lackey. In a moment of desperation, he suddenly had an idea and said, Master Kong, the Tang family has successfully entered the Jin City market. I heard that the Jiang family's roots are also in Jin City. I can help you gather intelligence here. I can even be a spy or do some murderous things. Ah, you want to play the role of a spy? Fine. Thank you for your hard work. By the way, you can help me investigate the Medicine King group. Go. Jiang Tian was amused. He laughed and waved his hand to ask him to leave. Master Kong, I've become your lackey. That's great. This is the blessing of 8 lifetimes. Tang Xiaozi was thrilled. He didn't expect his status to rise so quickly. He had become Master Kang's lackey. He had reached the top in a single bound. This was really reaching the top in a single bound. He immediately reported to his father and moved all his businesses from Lingnan to Jin City. He wanted to be Master Kang's vanguard. What an honor. Besides, he had to continue praying to Buddha. The next day, Jiang Tian said goodbye to his parents and left them 2 8 blessings bracelets. Then he returned to Linzhou with Qing'er and Shen Mange. When the car passed by Jinling on the highway, Jiang Tian glanced at the city that stretched into the distance. Jin City. In my previous life, This was the place that left me with countless heartbreak and regret. A cold light flashed in Zhang Tian's eyes. In 3 months I'll return with a strong momentum. When that time comes I'll sweep through the entire Jin city, wash away the humiliation of my previous life, and become a hero. However, now that I've killed Qin Bo from the Qin family and Sun Hao from the Sun family, the 3 major families will have to recuperate for a while. They won't dare to act rashly. Thinking of this, Zhang Tian's lips curled into a faint smile. He slowly closed his eyes. While Zhang Tian was rushing to Linzhou, the Pacific Ocean, the western part of the Hawaiian Islands, Alcatraz Island. This island was 2,100 nautical miles away from the west coast of the United States. It covered an area of more than 10 square kilometers. On the map it was so small that it was negligible. However, only those who had set foot on this island knew how dangerous it was. There was an active volcano that erupted every few days. It was barren and scorching hot. Not a single blade of grass grew. There were no traces of birds or animals. Those who knew about the underground world would be shocked when they heard this name. Demon Island was the private property of the famous Big Circle Gang, the #1 gang in the Chinese world. At this moment, in the depths of the volcano, the boiling lava made the air crackle like firecrackers. Here the temperature was 1,000 degrees Celsius. Even refined iron could melt. However, there was an old man sitting cross-legged on top of the boiling lava. He was floating in the air. He had white hair and a ruddy complexion. His eyes were drooping like an old monk in meditation. His face was very calm. He exhaled and spat out a white light that was 10 feet long. He inhaled and inhaled the boiling hot air directly into his abdomen. As he inhaled and exhaled, it was as if he was swallowing the sun and the moon, melting all things. That scorching hot air could not even leave a mark on his clothes, let alone burn him. This person was here. Like a demon god, he used the volcano as a furnace and the lava as a furnace to refine his body and cultivate. He wanted to pursue the supreme realm of martial arts. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. A helicopter flew over from afar, stirring up volcanic ash as it slowly landed. When it was more than 10 meters above the ground, a towering figure leaped into the air. When he was in midair, his arms suddenly shook. True Qi surged behind his back and 2 black wings about 10 meters long burst out. With a flap of the wings, sand and soil were swept up. He landed steadily, safe and sound. That figure walked toward the volcano. One could already see that he had blonde hair and blue eyes. His long hair was emitting a golden luster. His nose was high and his eyes were deep. He was actually a mixed-blood handsome guy. If there were experts from the west coast of the United States here, they would definitely be shocked and retreat. This person was a well-known figure in the Chinese circle in the United States. He was also a state senator and a great philanthropist. However, he secretly controlled the drug smuggling and arms trade in California and Oregon. Every year he had more than $1 billion in his hands. Some people even heard that he was a superhuman. Like Spider-Man and Superman, he could take things from a distance and injure people in the air. The Vietnamese gang and the Italian mafia, the Gambino family, which ran rampant in the West Coast for a while, had all been defeated by him. Master. The handsome mixed-blood man came to the crater of the volcano and looked at the old man above the magma with reverence. However, according to the rules of the Chinese martial arts world, he cupped his fists and said respectfully. His Mandarin was also spoken with perfect articulation. The old man opened his eyes and flicked his finger. Zap. With a bang, a stream of true qi wrapped around the lava, forming a 10-meter-long fire phoenix that soared unpredictably under his feet. Using true qi to control magma at a temperature of 10,000 degrees was unimaginable for others, but for this old man, it was like a game that he could do with ease. Master's cultivation has reached another level. He is getting closer to the immortal state. Seeing this, the mixed-blood man's face became more respectful. He bowed so low that he almost touched the ground. I am still far from the immortal state. The old man finally spoke. His voice was hoarse and dry as if he hadn't spoken for many years. The iron body refines the body, the internal force refines the internal force, the transcendent state cultivates the qi, and the immortal state cultivates the soul energy. The immortal state is an illusory existence. It only appears once every 100 years. Just like the gods in the sky, they can set up an array with a raise of their hand, chant a spell and speak the truth. Their words are law. The mixed-blood man listened solemnly as the old man spoke. He didn't dare to miss a word. He knew that the old man had reached the peak of martial arts. Every word was more precious than gold. I'm just at the peak of the transcendent state. I'm still a long way from reaching the immortal state. Speaking of this, the old man let out a long sigh. His eyes became very distant. No one knew what he was thinking. If there was a high-ranking military officer like Zhou Xian or a veteran martial arts grandmaster here, he would definitely recognize this old man. The top master of the Great Circle, Lin Zhenyu. 20 years ago he led his disciples to defeat all the major martial arts families in Wuxia. He wanted to demonstrate his power to Wuxia and claim the legal status of the Great Circle. However, in the end he was defeated by Xianxia, the #1 god of war in the army. After that he was forced to withdraw from Wuxia. Master, we have received news that Xianxia has come out of seclusion and regained control of the Huaxiaolong formation. The mixed-blood man Hanks said in a deep voice. Very good. Lin Zhenyu opened his eyes for the first time. There seemed to be a burning flame dancing in the depths of his eyes. His lips curled into a vicious smile. He heaved a sigh and said, I have been cultivating here for 20 years because I wanted to have a showdown with Xianxia. Who would have thought that he would come out of seclusion before me? The next moment he stepped into the air and walked toward the entrance of the cave as if he were walking on flat ground. He was like a fire god or an immortal. Every step he took created a fire lotus. You're tuning in to the Zhou Xian's Legacy YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.